I am a teacher. I am a teacher in Harlem, and I also lived in Harlem since 1993. And I love my community, and I'm willing to do anything I need to do to make it better.
I love it.
What else would you like me to say? You
I
put me on the spot.
I think that's great, Juan. You're a teacher. You've been here since a long time, so it's great to have someone who's a long timer,
Thank you.
invested. So
Thank you so much.
I
Can
think
I
you'll
put
enjoy
myself?
working.
Can I put myself in mute?
You can, yes. I hear some
Okay.
background noise, so go
Thank
ahead.
you.
But welcome, Juan. We're glad to have you on board. So just a quick understanding. So the community board, in case you've never been to a meeting, you don't know what the community board is. We are a board of 50 volunteers that are appointed by either the Manhattan Borough President, which is currently Mark Levine, or the local city council member, which is Sean Abreu in our area, or Kristen Richardson Jordan. She's the other one, has a very small part of our district. And so community board members cover, our community board covers about 110 to 155, and there's 50 people appointed to the board. Anyone is welcome to apply and join. You just have to apply. The applications start sometime in January, the process starts. So if you're interested in joining, please start coming to meetings and learning more. And then we also have public members. You can become a public member first. And then you can apply also to be a permanent board member, or a full board member, I should say. And that is done, the process usually starts around January. So if that's something of interest to you, go to the Manhattan Borough President's website, and that is where they take applications and the official process starts. So just want everyone to know. So Juan did that process, and Juan has just joined us as a new member. But there are many ways to be involved, which we'll talk about more when we get to the public members update in our agenda. And excuse me, my cat is walking across the screen. So that said, I always like to give a little update of what the community board is, so you know. And I see that Meldis joined us. Thank you, Meldis, for being here. How are you?
I'm well. Hello, good evening to everyone. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. So I think there's a couple of items on here that we're going to get to in new business, which are probably some topics that people are here for. But we also wanted to have a brief update from our one of our programs, nonprofits in the area, Broadway Housing Communities. Meldis is a member of that group. And I just thought it would be of interest because we have some topics tonight that might cover some of the kind of programming that they cover, to hear more about Broadway housing communities. And so Meldis agreed. Thank you, Meldis, for coming and telling us a little bit, about what they do. They have a couple of properties in our area, and they offer a lot of great services. And the community board has worked very closely with Broadway housing communities for many years, on various kinds of affordable housing, supportive housing, and services. So Meldis, if you don't mind, we would love to get an update what Broadway Housing Community is up to.
Great. So I guess this will be an overview of also Broadway Housing and the model that we believe in. So again, I want to thank you, Signy and MCB9, for always supporting us and for having us this evening. And I'm the community organizer at Broadway Housing, working with families at Sugar Hill and Dorothy Day Apartments. And without further ado, I guess I'll share my screen. If you could give me the ability to.
Yep, let me see if I can do that now. Try now.
Okay. And it seems like the agenda is pretty full, so I will try to keep this brief. It may be a longer presentation that I've done in the past, but again, for those that might not be familiar with BHC, this will cover a lot of ground. So again, I'll introduce myself. My name is Meldis Jimenez, community organizer at Broadway Housing Communities. So today we'll give an overview of basically our vision, the different departments, including buildings that we have within our portfolio currently, who do we serve, and also some of the previous tenant and community initiatives that we've done, and just give a preview to some of the things that we do have on our calendar before ending the year. So those are some of the different images of the different buildings that we have, and I'll go over each one of them separately, but like Signy mentioned, Broadway Housing Communities, also called BHC. We create equity in our community by building innovative, affordable housing and providing opportunities for educational and cultural enrichment for individuals as well as families. So just a little background on BHC's founder and executive director, Ellen Baxter. She's committed more than 30 years to, again, advocacy and also housing development to basically redress the inequality that we experience and continue to experience with regards to homelessness in New York City and also nationally is something that we're passionate about. And we also advocate and teach the youth, including families, about the current housing crisis that we are experiencing and how it's directly impacting our community. She is a pioneer of supportive housing as well, and she founded Broadway Housing Communities, which was then known as the Committee for the Heights and Inwood Homelessness in 1983. And I've included some links here if you want additional information about Ellen Baxter and her history as well. She's also done work with the Coalition from the Homeless and published an article in 1980 in the New York Times addressing some of the issues and how the city was trying to, or actually not trying to approach the homelessness issue. And she was able to sue the city of New York. And through that lawsuit, she was able to obtain her first property, which she did establish in Washington Heights, and started by providing supportive housing to those in the community that were homeless. The vision of Ellen Baxter has evolved. In Broadway Housing, in our model, we believe that culture and education is all part of what creates housing and stable, thriving communities. Again, the three pillars within Broadway Housing Communities is first housing, education, and then the arts. And we always talk about how we believe strongly that housing is a stabilizing agent as well. So as far as the BHC properties, we do have properties within Harlem and Washington Heights. The Rio, which is located at 10 Fort Washington, is on near 163rd Street and Broadway, has 83 units of those that are SROs. We also have the Edgecombe, which is located on 155th Street and Edgecombe Avenue, 153rd Street, sorry. And we also have the Delta, which is 49 West 145th Street between Convent and St. Nicholas, which has 36 SRO units. Again, initially, a lot of the buildings that were acquired were SRO units, and Ellen's model and her vision definitely has evolved. And the way that it has done so is through seeing how SROs affect individuals and those that were formerly homeless or maybe incarcerated or experienced substance abuse or just were victims of domestic violence. We understand that it's important for them to be incorporated into properties and buildings that actually are diverse and reflect the makeup of the community itself. So through Dorothy Day, it was the first family building that was actually created. Again, all of these units are like tax credit and affordable, and there are 70 units. It's located at 583 Riverside Drive. And its newest development within its portfolio is Sugar Hill Apartments, which has 124 units, all of them affordable. I believe there are 24 that are market rate, but about 70% of them are actually like deeply affordable for those that are like low income and very low income families. And that's located at 5898 St. Nicholas Avenue. It's on the corner of 155th Street.
Melodies, where was the Delta again? 409, 146?
409 West 145th.
145th. Okay, great. Thank you.
So again, like I mentioned, the Sugar Hill project at Sugar Hill Apartments is the latest addition to its portfolio, and it very accurately represents its structure and how it was built, includes the vision and the model by providing permanent housing, also early childhood education through its preschool, the Sugar Hill Museum preschool. BAC has two state-of-the-art preschools, one at Dorothy Day Educational Center located at Dorothy Day. It services families, tenants, and also community members, as well as the Sugar Hill Museum preschool, which is located within the Sugar Hill project. And it also provides access to the cultural arts and engages in cultural arts events. It has within BHC, we have the Sugar Hill Children's Museum of Art and Storytelling as well, which is adjacent to the building, the residential building. And again, it's within the historic neighborhood of Sugar Hill. It was designed by architect David Adjei, who is also the architect of the National Museum of African American History. I'm not sure if I should stop now. I see a hand up, or should I get through the presentation?
It's fine. How many, do you have a few more slides, or is it short?
I have a few more slides, so you tell me how long you want it to be.
Okay, you can do a few more slides and then we'll get to Victor. But I appreciate this. This is really helpful to understand. So thank you.
So Victor, I hope I can answer your question.
Oh, you can continue and then we'll get to Victor.
Okay. So this was just a short video that we had featured with regards to the Sugar Hill project, and it does include some words from the founder, and it actually shows some of the initial families that moved into the Sugar Hill project. And I would also mention that Sugar Hill Apartments was, one of the buildings that was first released through the Housing Connect portal, and it was through a lottery system as well. And if it's okay, I just will play a portion of this video. Yeah.
Melodies, I think you have to, if you go to share screen and you hit the little up arrow, there's a thing that if you go to advanced sharing options, it allows you to share video, audio, I think.
Correct. Sorry about that.
No worries.
This is Holland. This is Holland. Everything happens in Holland. And so living right here.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
Yes.
Is the volume okay?
Good.
Yes.
I'm blessed. And you know, this is living.
We could have built a separate school, a museum, and affordable housing, but by combining them, we've sort of woven together some of the fundamentally important needs of our community.
I'm 18, I go to BMCC. I am a science major. Living here is actually really nice. It's way better than where I did live before. It was all my family living together in like a one apartment.
The concept of social justice is right at the heart of the discussion in this architectural project. Through all the design decisions, what was clear was that we would not just try to kind of make what we think, you know, people who were poor would accept. In fact, I found that quite offensive.
Every time my friends ask me where I live, I'm like, the amazing building that looks like a Rubik's Cube on 155th Street. When my son is gonna get older, he's definitely gonna be going to the daycare and the pre-K that's in the building.
The Sugar Hill development is 124 apartments of very affordable housing. early education that will serve the whole neighborhood, and a museum of art and storytelling for children.
I was in the shelter system, and I was waiting for housing for a very long time. When I first saw all the windows, the way they were placed along the wall, I was like, somebody's hung pictures? And then I got closer, and I saw that actually they were windows that overlooked the park. I was exuberant.
We received 48,000 applications. The need is so great we could build many more. And in fact, we're hoping that this model sets an example for other neighborhoods to create an integrated form to serve broader community purposes and benefits.
I was living in the shelter, and I got to the shelter because of domestic violence situation. The best part of being here is just knowing that my daughter has a home. You know, when I used to live in the shelter, she used to sing, "We're home, we're home." And I used to be like, "Mommy, this is not your home. You know, this is just something temporary." Now she comes here and she's like, "I'm home, I'm home." And I'm like, "This is your home."
All right. So definitely, I will also invite everyone, if you have not yet done so, to visit our website, and you can do so by going to www.broadwayhousing.org, or you can also visit bhc.org as well. So this is just, I guess, very technical, but we have different, departments that allow for everything to run smoothly within our developments. And as we know, our relationships with our tenants and family is really important, and also making sure that we're creating programming and community engagement as well. So I'll go over a little bit of one of those departments, which is our rent administration department. They kind of take care of like leasing, recertifications, and compliance that is necessary, since we are also, like I mentioned, a low income tax credit housing project. They process rent payments, charges, go over house rules, and go over legal cases, visitor contracts. And again, like I mentioned, there are different organizations, including like state, federal, and city funds that allow for BHC to provide affordable housing in our community. Some of these programs include, like I mentioned, LIHTC, which is the low income housing tax credit, as well as like home. We also have DHS contracts and subsidies that we participate in. And we do, within our buildings, we do have set aside specifically for DHS and DSS as well. The rent department also, just, I guess, tenant responsibilities is, in order for us to continue to have and be in compliance with our, like, for example, LIHTC, tenants have to do like an annual recertification process and report any changes in income that doesn't affect their housing. It's just, as we explained, information that we have to collect in order to update these various agencies. And we do, although there are some legal cases, we really strongly try to prevent and hardly ever evict any of our tenants and families. And that's also due to the collaboration between the rent administration and also tenant services. And I'll go over what tenant services does a little later on.
So Meldis, I think we'll pause unless there's something else specific that you really wanted to cover.
Okay, I guess I'll cover this slide only because we do understand that there are other, again, the success of what we do has greatly is greatly contributed to our partnerships.
Your services, yeah, understood. This is
To
important.
our partnerships and also the work that we do with the Center for Urban and Community Services. Like I mentioned, BHC does have supportive housing, and we also have to and need to provide specific services. So BHC and CUCS collaborate, and again, providing front desk services, eviction prevention, case management, programming, and activities. And as I mentioned, for those that need also therapy, psychiatric interventions, like cleaning services, those are all, services that are provided through CUCS. And for those that are assigned social workers, and again, CUCS stands for Center for Urban Community Services. I linked it there, and they work throughout in New York City in providing these type of much needed services to our residents as well. So I guess I'll stop here, and I see some hands up. I'll try my best to answer, and I'll put my contact information. We do have upcoming events that we provide to both our parents, like parenting and for youth development initiatives that we have. So later on, I'll include my contact information, as well as some flyers for some upcoming events. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meldis. That's really helpful for us to understand what BHC does in the community. And thank you for that update and better understanding for everyone on this call of what BHC does. So I'm gonna open it up for questions. I see Victor was the first hand up, but Barry, did you have some, can you wait or?
Kim was the second, I was the third.
Yep, got it. Victor, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Good evening, all. Great presentation. Excuse me. I've been to your facility at 135th for many of our meetings. I've interacted with many of your staff, very professional. I've also been to the Sugar Hill building when it first opened, and I've attended several meetings there. And I know a lot of the services that you provide the community. My question is, there is a supportive housing building going up on 145th in Amsterdam. I just want to know if your organization was approached to bid for that or to inquire about that at all. That's my question.
I thank you so much for your question. And thank you for also engaging and coming to our different properties. And I would welcome everyone to definitely visit us. I don't want to give any wrong information. I'm under the impression that we were not, but I will include the information to the Director of Housing. Her name is Hive Sanchez. You can definitely reach out to her directly as well. I know that she is very much involved with CB9 as well as with Barry and Signy as well. So I would say that BHC has tried to definitely create other development within our community, and also try to target other demographics which very much so need supportive, need affordable housing, and are currently in the shelter system with no way to get out. Again, like I mentioned, a lot of the advocacy work that we do with our youth and with families is explaining that what we need is permanent housing, and understanding that shelter is temporary housing, and that it is not fair for individuals and family to, or for us to accept inhumane living.
Great, thank you.
So I'll put that information in the chat. Thank you so much for your question.
Okay.
Thank you. Kim, I see you have your hand next. Kim Johnson.
Yes, I do. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Kim.
Hope everybody's doing well. Give me 1 second so I can pull my car over so I am not doing this while driving.
Appreciated.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, this question might be a bit off center, but it does involve 898, the Sugar Hill building and St. Nicholas Avenue. Could you possibly tell me what your involvement is with the connecting parking facility, if any?
I wouldn't be able to speak to that. There's not a, I know that some of our staff use it, but I don't think that it's directly, like it's not something that's connected to our services. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, I really want to find out, well, I need an answer to that question, but also I want to know who is in control of the pricing policy within that facility.
Oh, we have nothing to do with the parking lot. I wouldn't.
Excuse me, can I answer that, Kim? That's a privately owned garage.
It's privately owned?
Yes, ma'am.
May I add, did they receive any tax breaks behind that? Because it is part of that facility, 898.
Wouldn't know.
And
It
how,
might be just renting space under the building as a commercial space, but I know I do know personally that it's privately owned.
it's privately owned, so it's not actually governed in any type of way by BHC. It's
Not
completely.
at all.
There was a contract, I guess, for the leadership or of that parking garage. There was a contract given out or
Well,
bid for.
We're not sure, Ms. Johnson. I think that might be something we could follow up with in research offline, but I don't think either us or BHC knows tonight.
Oh, I just thought because they were a part of the facility, and I thought they would have some information concerning that. And also if that facility received a tax break.
I highly doubt it with regards to the tax break, but because it's not like an amenity that we offer to our tenants. So I don't think that it's something, I don't want to give wrong information. You can definitely also contact info at BHC with those types of questions, and maybe they might be of greater help, okay?
Okay, so they
And I'll
have,
put it in the chat.
they please do, they have, you're saying they have absolutely no connection with BHC at all?
I mean, they're connected, right? But I don't think that like their administration or anything, I wouldn't know. As an organizer, I know there's no.
It sounds like there's perhaps someone who can answer that a little better at BHC.
Yeah.
We'll connect you, Kim, or Meldis, hopefully we'll connect you offline.
Definitely, Kim, I would definitely highly suggest that you do email info at BHC. They might be able to provide you a response. Again, I don't want to give inaccurate information, but I have no information, not even information that we provide to our tenants with regards to the parking lot. And like I mentioned, there might be staff or teachers that might use it, but it's something completely separate, and it's not like they get discounts or nothing like that.
Okay, they're completely separate from BHC.
Yeah, I believe so. But again, I would want to direct you to the proper channels.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Barry, you're up next.
Thanks for this, Mel. This is super helpful. I had a question about the supportive housing units that BHC has. And you spoke about some of the services they offer with the supportive housing. I'm curious, you know, I know the affordable housing units go through Housing Connect. How do tenants get referred or placed in your supportive housing units?
So I would okay, so within the affordable housing, we did have application. I'm sorry, this is outside. This is the affordable housing. I know that BHC, although outside of Housing Connect, there were like 48,000 applications. There was a wait list, and I think just recently that wait list was closed. Again, there's such high demand. Now, I do know that the rent department, again, does get referrals from DHS and also from DSS with regards to specific subsidies that are made available. So it comes directly from those city agencies. And then we also have, even within the affordable housing developments, there are set asides for those that are victims of domestic violence or are within, again, shelter system.
So it sounds like for the supportive housing units, those are made by referrals. Those are filled by referrals from the city agencies that provide the funding for those units.
Correct. Those are that's the only way.
Got it. Okay, that's super helpful and kind of allows us a little insight into the distinction between the supportive housing units and how they're filled versus the Housing Connect.
Correct.
A permanent affordable units. Thank you.
Thank you. I got one text before I saw Raphael's hand, and Tiffany Kahn had a question.
Hi, thank you for being here and for the presentation. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Great. So first of all, I've heard great things about BHC, and I'm thrilled that you guys are here and you have a larger presence. I wish you were also the nonprofit designated for the 145th Street development. But anywho, I just had a quick question about the Dorothy Day housing on 135th Street. I sometime a few years ago, I went there to inquire about an application, and I believe offhand that it was something like $2,400 for a 2-bedroom. I don't remember exactly, but I just kind of felt like that was closer to market rate. And I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit about the prices and how you come up with them.
Oh, okay. So I know that specifically at Dorothy Day, all of them are light tech, so there are specific AMIs, but I think 2,400 sounds like really high. Again, I'm not within the rent administration department as far as like what the rent goes for. I can try to get that information for you. Like, I'm actually curious, like, who gave you this information, like how long ago it was, because I don't think that's usually, I'm not sure. Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
So again, this was a few years ago, and I don't remember offhand the exact figure, but I do remember it was over 2,000. And I just felt like for the neighborhood, because I live in the neighborhood, it was closer to market rate, so it just didn't. It was just, you know, a little bit much, but
yeah, definitely. I'm
the
actually
person who
shocked
gave me,
myself. That's not affordable.
yeah. Okay.
I would.
That was just my question.
Yeah, I wish I had the AMIs for that building just offhand. I know like at Sugar Hill, we do have like 30% AMIs, 60% AMIs, and like I think there's like 80% as well AMI within Sugar Hill. At Dorothy Day, I don't have the AMI information, but I do know that a lot of the residents that live there have actually been there since it first opened. So most of them have like 16 years there. So it's not like there are usually that many vacancies. But again, because it is a light tech property, I don't think that amount that you was given is correct information. But because I'm within the
What's a live tech property?
Yeah,
you said a live
it
tech
does
property?
it does have tax credits. Yeah, low income housing.
Low income housing tax credit.
Low income tax. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Housing tax credits. What should we call light tech? I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay, so next hand, I believe, was Raphael.
Hi, I just joined during the Q&A here. I was calling to find out if anyone has any information on the mental health clinic on 145th in Amsterdam.
Yeah, so Raphael,
That's
we're a little early in the agenda. We're going to cover that just in a few topics. We know there's a lot of folks probably on the line interested in that. So just hang tight for 2 seconds. We had BHC present tonight just to give us an update and understanding the kinds of things that they have to offer in the community. So give us a few minutes, Raphael. We'll get there.
Will do. Thanks.
Thanks, Raphael, for being here. UN, do you have a question for Meldis?
Yes, hi, thank you. Thank you. Melvis, can you share information on the distribution of the Housing Connect, what percentage versus the supportive housing referrals? And if you do not have that information, I'd be interested if you, I'd be interested in having it sent to Signe after the meeting, the percentage overall, and for all the properties, what is the distribution of each property?
So when you're referring to Housing Connect, you mean like the initial leasing?
Yeah, affordable housing versus the supportive referrals.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the supportive housing within Sugar Hill and Dorothy Day, we call those set asides because there are units that are designated specifically to those referrals. So I'll
Okay.
definitely try to get that information and definitely forward it to Sydney. And just to confirm, if you want to know the percentage of Housing Connect, like affordable housing that was provided versus the number
Right.
of set asides. So I can
Right, the
tell.
percentages, yeah.
Okay.
And for Dorothy Day, Sugar Hill, and the Benzinger House, and the one that's on 145th between Convent and St. Nicholas.
Yeah, so for the Rio, which is at 10-4 Washington, the Edgecombe, which is the mansion on,
Right,
yeah, and also the Delta, which is at 49 West 145th. Those
Right.
are all SROs. So those are all, again, like referrals from.
All right, so
from
please
services.
include those, yeah,
Yeah.
broken down by facility, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you so
will do.
much.
You're welcome.
And I do want to just point out, Melodies, that one of the things that CB9 really appreciated when Sugar Hill opened was prior to it opening, BHC held a number of workshops in the community to help people from the neighborhood fill out the application in Housing Connect.
Oh yeah, I didn't get to that part of the presentation.
No, I
Barry.
know. I figured it was on one of your slides that we didn't
Yeah,
get to, but
we do
because
that
you
every single year.
because you asked the question, I think it's important to note that for lottery permanent housing apartments that go on, oh, my camera's off, that go on Housing Connect, 50% of those are given as preference to people who live in the community board district that the development is in. So in this case, CB9. But a lot of times what happens is that those units actually wind up going to people outside of the district because there aren't enough people in the district who get chosen in the lottery whose paperwork is actually like good enough to qualify. And so what Broadway Housing does every year and did a big push for this latest building at 155th was hold workshops and office hours with community members to help them with their paperwork for applying, so that if their number gets called in the lottery, they get the apartment. They're not thrown out later because of ineligibility requirements. And I think all of the preference units, the 50% set aside units in that building that were set aside as permanent housing with a preference for CB9 people in the district, all of those were filled by families or people in the district or from the district. And that was considered a huge success because so often, there's lip service paid to that. But then if you look at the numbers in the end, it doesn't pan out because of those paperwork issues. So I just want to thank BHC for making sure that when the rubber hits the road, things actually happen the way that they're presented to us as they're supposed to happen. So, and I know that I figured that would be in your presentation because Ellen brought it up in a prior meeting.
Ellen is a strong advocate, and there was a lot of advocacy that was done towards HPD, again, of making sure and allowing for even those families, for example, that were from our district. We wanted to prioritize that. That is what the contract says. And also teaching residents and applicants as well of what the appeals process looks like, because a lot of those that sometimes get a call and they're told that they're ineligible, there is an appeals process that they're entitled to that can help them so that they can be eligible for those units. Now, again, with the housing, because we are in a housing crisis, I will say that the Housing Connect from when BHC opened, it's very different from now. And I saw in the chat that people are saying oh my gosh, it's not even that affordable. So I know that within our district or within our community, we do have a HPD housing ambassador that also assists with completing applications and can help with the appeals process, which is Community League of the Heights. And they're located, I think, on 158 or 59 between Amsterdam and Broadway. So we've collaborated with Cloth, and we've also collaborated with HPD, and Housing Connect is one of the workshops that we actually give to our, like we provide to some of our young adults and also families, because we understand that not everyone has the, digital literacy to be able to complete some of the applications, although 2.0 is much friendly than the platform that was used at the beginning when Sugar Hill Apartments was listed.
Yeah, super important that we make sure that the folks in our community have the tools they need to be eligible so that we can get those 50% preference in from our community. We want to give our folks the best opportunity, the best chance to get in there. Because there are, yes, for about 50,000 applications that go in for very few units much of the time. So, but there is a 50% set aside for CB9 members, and we want to give them the best chance possible. So thank you for holding us.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to include another thing that many people might not know, but it is important that they do know about updates to Housing Connect 2.0 is that HPD is now looking for and actually allowing for those that do have subsidies to complete their the profile on Housing Connect. So if you have a Section 8 voucher, if you have a subsidy, you can still apply through Housing Connect and be connected to an affordable housing project that might have a wait list or is looking for individuals either for supportive or for specific set aside units that are subsidy eligible.
Got it. So we're going to wrap up in a minute. I just see one more hand. We'll do that hand, and then we're going to wrap this section up, and we're going to move along to a very hot topic, I know. Karen, you have a question?
Yes. Meldis, how do you help veterans with mental issues get housing with Housing Connect? How do you connect with those? Because I know a couple of those that even tried to apply. Now I know a couple of people in your building on 898 St. Nicholas Avenue. I've also been in there. It's a beautiful building. I've been to the museum as well. I love it. But I need to know, how do you connect people, the vets, to BHC's buildings and get the applications and things?
So we actually do have some veterans that were referred through DHS and our clients of CUCS. So some of them came from CUCS or DHS referrals that they were in the shelter system and were veterans. But again, those are referrals.
But what about if they're not in the shelter system?
It was through CUCS.
CUCS? Okay, yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thanks, Karen. Well, thank you, Meldis, for answering all those questions and giving us an idea of what BHC does here in this community. We've been working together a long time, I know, and thank you. All right, thanks, Meldis.
Another thing, Signe, like if I wanted to share a file, like I only say it's Microsoft SharePoint. Should I just send it to you and then you send it at the end of the meeting?
I could.
I was hoping I could put the PDFs in here.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how to use SharePoint. I've on the chat. I've not done it before.
No worries. I guess I'll put a link to our link tree where we have some of our upcoming events and programming, and those that are interested. And yeah, all right.
Yeah. Just links to your calendar and things like that. Yep. Yep. Put it all in the chat. Awesome. Okay, so we're wrapping up the introductions, presentations, announcements. Is there anything, committee members, that I missed in that section that we need to go over before we head on to new business? If not, then we're going to move along. So the new business discussions, of course, the first topic is 1727 Amsterdam at 145th Street and Amsterdam. This is the current, where the current Emma Bowen Center is housed, the mental health center. This property is actually owned, though, or in the portfolio of Health and Hospitals, HHC, as we will refer to it. And the community first brought it to our attention, community members that had noticed things going on around that land. And so it appears that the land is being leased to a nonprofit, Bowery Residents. What is it? Bowery Residents, can't remember the last word, but BRC, we will be referring to that.
Bowery Residents Committee.
Committee, thank you. We'll refer to that as BRC. So HHC is the city agency, Health and Hospitals, that is leasing this land, and BRC currently is the nonprofit developer. So we're learning with you. We had both HHC and BRC at our executive meeting. We had an emergency addition to our meeting on Thursday night last week. So we want to download all of you on what we learned from them out of the horse's mouth. We know that there's been a lot of talk in the last couple of weeks, and we appreciate everybody who's reached out and let us know what they've heard and what they've learned. That is how we learn about things sometimes in this community, is simply by sharing knowledge, and we rely on everyone in the community to help us. We are 50 members of the community that always need your assistance to hear what's going on in your neck of the woods. So with that, Barry, I'm going to have you fill in some details here, because I'm sure you heard other things that I didn't hear the other night. But what we do know, and we'll just share whatever knowledge that we learned from them. So again, this is in the portfolio of HHC, Health and Hospitals. It appears that they started thinking about this pre-COVID, and they did what's called an RFP to find a developer. This land was under 50-year lease, and it was 72, so 22, of course, is the 50 years is up of the original lease on this land. And so they are, HHC is now releasing to BRC, Bowery Residents Committee. Yes, brc.org if you want to learn more about them. What they're intending to do, what they told us the other night, is 200 units of supportive and affordable housing units. 200, that's 60% supportive housing, 40% affordable housing, with the traditional 50% CB9 preference at 60% or below AMI. They told us that it is not going to be a homeless shelter or any sort of transitory housing. It's going to be permanent supportive housing. Now, we have a lot of questions about how that would be set up, and how they would bring people into that supportive housing. They did say it was going to be 24-hour services for that supportive housing. You did see some examples of how BHC supports their residents and their housing. Now we have asked for more, there's more questions than we have answers. We've asked for more details, specific details on the housing portion of what this is going to look like, the breakdown. We're focused as the Housing Committee, Housing, Land Use and Zoning, on the housing portion and the land use and zoning portion of this. There's also the health portion, the Emma Bowen Center, which is going to be relocated, we found out during this time. So there's questions there too. The Health Committee met last night, and I'm sure more questions were brought up there. We're focused in on the housing portion of this, what's going to go on that property, who's running it, all of that. So Barry, would you like to add a little bit more about what we do know?
Yes. So what we do know is that there was an RFQ that HPD put out in June or mid 2019. And the property first began to be topics of discussion for redevelopment with HHC in late 2019. As Signe stated, the community board only found out about this last week. We heard about it from the community first, from people calling and emailing me and texting me, and HHC only confirmed it after Labor Day, and even then they were reluctant to confirm it. So they've been working on this for 3 years. As Signe said, they're planning 120 units of supportive housing and 80 units of affordable housing. The maximum AMI band on that affordable housing is estimated to be 60%, although the average will probably be lower than 60%. And of those 80 units, 40 of them will have preference for CB9, as is standard with Housing Connect affordable housing units. We know that they applied for an $83 million debt financing from the Housing Development Corporation back in the spring of this year. And we know that they told Emma Bowen in late 2019, early 2020, that they were planning to redevelop the site and that Emma Bowen would need to make preparations. We don't know how BRC was selected as the developer. You know, they mostly do homeless shelter developments and transitional housing. About a third of their buildings are supportive housing with, you know, permanent housing, and the other 2/3 are homeless shelters and transitional housing. So it's not surprising that people assume this would be a homeless shelter given who the developer was, although they have gone multiple times on the record in our meetings saying it will not be a shelter. A major item of concern for us is that the current square footage at the facility now that is used for healthcare is about 59,000 square feet. The planned square footage in the new space is about 17,000 square feet for healthcare. So roughly, these are rough estimates, these are not confirmed. But so while it is true that Emma Bowen is being invited back to the new development, Emma Bowen currently has about 32,000 square feet in their current space at that site, and they're being invited back for 16,000 to 17,000 square feet. By their estimates, even with a more efficient floor plate, because you know the current building is old, it's not efficiently designed. Even with an efficient floor plate, they estimate they would need about 25,000 square feet to maintain their existing volume of services. So functionally, this will result in a cut to the volume of services that Emma Bowen Center provides to our community. And for those who don't know, Emma Bowen Center provides multiple services, but their psychiatric services are mostly for people with moderate to severe mental illness. So severe bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, related illnesses, related substance abuse. They also have a Department of Education site, I believe, for preschool or preschool and kindergarten for children with severe mental health needs at the site. And they are concerned about making sure that preschool stays open in the new site. Because, you know, it needs a separate entrance, it needs separate bathrooms, et cetera. So we cannot afford as a community, much less a city, to have reduced volume of mental health services these days. I mean, if you walk around the streets in our city, or if you take the subways in our city, you will know that. And this comes as inpatient psychiatric beds in places like Allen Hospital and other hospitals continue to close. So this is not acceptable. Equally unacceptable is that they plan on charging Emma Bowen Center twice the rent that they are currently paying at that site when they move back in. So why that would equate to like quadrupling the rent per square foot, right? If they're cutting the square footage in half, but you're paying twice the rent, that's 4 times the rent per square foot. So, and Emma Bowen Centers, they presented to our community board in May. And while it is true, we are not happy that they did not raise this when they presented to us at May. We didn't know that this move was coming for them. And we suspect that they were bullied into not telling us. You know, they showed where their funding comes from, and the majority of it is from Medicaid, Medicare, state funding. And it is not clear to me that those funding streams would be able to accommodate twice the rent. In fact, it's pretty clear that it wouldn't be able to accommodate twice the rent. And, you know, these properties are not meant to create profit for the city. They're meant to provide services for those in need in the city. They're meant to be money losers in a sense. You're not meant to think of them as profit versus money losing because it's there to provide a service, not make money. And so for that reason alone, the current plan for that site is unacceptable. We still have questions about financing. We still have questions about how the developer was selected. And we still insist that this project must go through ULURP as city-owned land. ULURP is the Universal Land Use Review process, which happens anytime there's a rezoning, which is not currently envisioned for this site, or anytime city-owned property is to be disposed of, including through leases, which is the plan for this site. The plan is to give a 99-year lease to BRC. So those are our concerns at the moment. We have a lot more concerns. We are appalled by the lack of notice and how unforthcoming HHC was until they were kind of caught. Since then, they have apologized and promised to be more forthcoming and continue the dialogue. They insist that they're in the initial stages of this, but it's not as initial as we'd like. So I know that was really long. I apologize, Signe, but that was kind of the details of what we know so far.
Absolutely. Tiffany, you have a question? I guess listen, we've told you what we know. We're opening it up to discussion and questions.
I don't have a question.
But we will.
So first of all, shout out to Wendy, Assemblywoman Taylor. Sorry, Assemblyman Al Taylor. I'm sorry. I'm using my phone to hear you, and I can hear my echo, so it's really annoying. So I'm just going to take this off. And also Senator Cordell Clare for the meeting that we just had with Lois Penny and all the information that we just learned. Thank you. And Barry pointed out some of the shocking information that we found out as well, which is, as he said, double the rent at half the space. Wendy can also point this out, but the other thing is Heritage Health will not be able to be in the facility. So it's not just that we're having half of Emma Bowen, but we're also losing another healthcare facility. I think it was the Berger Commission that came about in the early 2000s that reduced the number of hospitals that we have. It's shocking, it's deplorable, and it's especially, we're seeing even fewer healthcare facilities in Harlem. I'm not going to get into all the many ways that Black and brown communities do not have enough healthcare, why we have the shortest lifespan, but I am livid, and I'm really trying to censor myself that this project is going through, and we're calling on everyone in the community to become more vocal. Let Mark Levine know that we don't want this, or at least we want something that's going to really be of value for the community. The same clinic capacity or better, as well as more permanent affordable housing. So.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany. I see the next hand, Yuen Chin. Hello, Yuen.
Yeah, you might not have the answer, but I'm still confused as to the physical plans. Are they planning to demolish, or is this an adaptive reuse and expansion to the entire expansion of the building to fill the entire lot, including where the children's playground is? Or whatever.
We have asked them for detailed plans. They claim they don't have any yet, and so they'll reach out to us when they do, and present when they do. They do not have any plans, they told us at the moment. So we don't know for sure. We only know from hearsay of neighbors of things that we.
Yeah. But that can't be true. Yeah, I mean, they're lying because they know about the percent, the distribution of the housing units that are, they must know what, how many square footage, required to produce that number of housing. So are they going to demolish the building and build, I mean, they already know those basics, and they're looking for financing. So they need plans to look for the money,
Yep, we're pressing them. We have all the questions.
Yeah, so, they should be called on it you know, and not even them, but the electeds need to be more aggressive about this. And the last question, and maybe for Barry, can you just explain for those of us or who might not know the difference between affordable and supportive, what is the clientele for supportive housing?
So supportive housing, as we kind of got into with Meldis, is housing that exists to give permanent homes with leases and make people regular tenants for people who are homeless. And so, you know, they are referred by DHS or DSS, and they then, you know, get a permanent home in an apartment and become regular tenants. The process, the other thing is they have supportive services provided to them to keep them stable and in housing.
Okay, so these people would have mental issues as well as...
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
And so, you know, I think it's notable that there are different models to supportive housing is itself a model, but there are different variations within it. Blending is one model that BHC is very vocal about supporting, where supportive housing units are mixed in with non-supportive housing units. And, you know, thus people are not warehoused in one particular building, but rather like embedded in part of a community. It creates, you know, less of a cluster and less of a burden on folks and integrates people into communities. But like you saw in the video, a DHS referral may be someone who has been a victim of domestic violence and is in the shelter system and may need some support services as a result, but, you know, needs stable housing. They could also be someone who is homeless and is either experiencing HIV/AIDS and needs a stable place to live, in part to continue their access to healthcare to keep their illness under control, or, you know, a similar issue for diabetes management or substance abuse or mental illness. So there are a lot of different reasons that someone may require supportive housing, but how well those services are provided, how well those folks are integrated into the community, and how well those buildings are maintained varies significantly by provider, which is why, you know, we don't know anything about BRC. We don't know if they're good. We don't know if they're bad. We don't know. And we do know that Broadway housing is good. I mean, you know, they've been in this community for 30 odd years. We know all of their sites. We know the conditions they're kept in, which are very good. We know that those sites also host services and amenities that are open to the entire community, and that benefit the entire community. And so, you know, knowing these providers makes a difference, which is why we were so perturbed when, you know, we found out that someone had been planning to take over this site for 3 years and we had no idea.
Well, just one last comment, and then that would be it for me. I think it's important for us to press for an investigation as to the selection process. How open it was, or how it was determined that Barry, you know, was able to win that RFP.
Right. And I will add that the community board is on record in resolutions and our budget priorities as supporting additional supportive, as in favor of and requesting additional supportive housing in our district, because supportive housing is the best way to reduce the number of homeless families and people in this city and in our district. Because if you give them a home, a permanent home, not a shelter, not a temporary 12 to 18 month place, but a permanent home with a lease where they are a tenant, they are then not homeless anymore.
Right. I agree. But what did Broadway Housing know about this RFP?
That is what we asked Meldis earlier, and she referred us to Jael Sanchez, who, you know, comes to these meetings fairly frequently and is well known to this community and community board. And so we will be following up with Jael on that. We also requested information about the RFQ from HPD.
Yeah, that's important. That's the first thing. Okay, thank you very much.
So
Right.
the next hand I see is Jessica, but Jessica, if you don't mind, we also have Wendy, who's with Al Taylor's office, one of our electeds.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
Go ahead, Wendy.
We would love to hear from Wendy, and I think perhaps Al is listening from afar here too. But Wendy.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here. The member is in fact on with us. I just wanted to let everyone know that we have requested and have received confirmation of a meeting with HHC, where we hope to get as much as we can as far as details are concerned, which we would love to share with everyone. I have placed my information in the chat, my email address. If you don't mind, please email myself or the board, if that's okay with you guys, questions that you may have by Monday that we will be able to ask as well.
I will be happy to give the Gmail for this committee. If people want to submit questions, they can do that to us as well. And I'll send that to you, Wendy, before Monday, you said.
Yes.
So I'm going to put our email for the housing committee in the chat if you guys want to send that. And then you can also send to Wendy directly. You can do either, I guess. And I'll send you whatever I get, Wendy, as well. But
thank you so much.
In the chat. Okay. And I'll MCB9.
And like you guys, we have the same information that you already have and are wondering the same questions that you are wondering. So the member immediately reached out, so we are able to get those those questions answered, which we should have had long ago. That's all from me. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Wendy. Okay, Jessica, you're next.
Thanks, Senia. I won't, since this is the housing committee and not the health committee, I won't belabor Tiffany's point, but I do want to underscore it because we do live in an area that is underserved in terms of primary care support. So Barry, 100% on what you said in terms of the need for mental health services. And clearly this is a growing need. So it's not just what we need today, but what we're going to need tomorrow. And losing such a substantial portion of what's currently in the neighborhood is, as you said, unacceptable. And I would extend that unacceptability criteria to the fact that we cannot lose something like Health Heritage, that is one of the few primary healthcare facilities that are in this neighborhood. And, you know, I did not intend to coin the term medical redlining when we were talking to Sean and some of the other people farther down in Harlem, but this is what I had in mind when we talk about the fact that these communities are completely underserved with basic health care, gynecological care, cardiovascular care, dietitians, musculoskeleton and orthopedists. These are all significant needs in our community. And right now, certainly lacking if Heritage was not there, or even if it was moved. We're talking about adding significant travel and expense to patients who can least afford it and can least benefit or can least afford to take the time to do so. So having said that, and I would be more than happy to add comments to the health committee minutes or provide comments to them. I also do believe that this is absolutely why the ULURP process was created. These kinds of activities are why ULURP is so important. And I mean, frankly, ULURP is one of the first and real main responsibilities of a community board. And the fact that that was glossed over, I would actually ask Wendy to sort of advocate for the member that this not only seems like a significant oversight, but may even seem, if you cock your head in a certain direction, like an actual act of trying to hide something that they knew was going to be challenging. So strongly advocating for ULURP is a key point here. And I guess I'm wondering, what can we do? Yes, we can call Mark's office, and yes, we can, Mark Levine's office, and yes, we can reach out to some of our representatives. But can we get more information, for example, for who's backstopping the financing that's currently being offered? And I think Lisa's the one who said, if you have $84 million worth of funding, you've submitted some kind of a plan. So it's completely unacceptable that we don't know about it. And it's also completely unacceptable that there's stonewalling. And I think that we should be bold enough to call it that.
So thank you, Jessica. And I just want to shout out Jessica Martinez as a former CB9 member, still showing up and being active.
Who learned all about ULURP and its value.
Yes.
I think you remember years of talking about ULURP and trying to get more ULURP process.
Exactly. This is why it was established.
Why it should be.
Sorry,
Well,
go ahead, Gary.
one of the things that has come up is that because HHC is technically a separate corporation created by the state for the city, the argument is that they do not have to go through ULURP according to the statute that creates them. And that is something that could be fixed in the Assembly and the Senate. It's also not clear, though, according to the city register, that this property is actually owned by HHC. If you look at the documents, there's never a deed transfer publicly shown in ACRIS that transfers the ownership of this property from the city of New York, which is absolutely subject to ULURP, to HHC, which possibly is not subject to ULURP and instead to a separate state process. And so while I think the statute should be amended to force some sort of public oversight of HHC's development plans, I think that's actually huge, not just for our community, but for all communities served by HHC property. I do think that that it's not clear that this is actually owned by HHC, at least not in the property records that are available in the city register online. So yeah, I will, that maybe that's something for a lawyer to sort out or something, but it's not clear to me.
So to that end, if those of us wanted to lend our voices to, say, for example, asking the city council to amend the process so that state activities are also covered by ULURP, can you guys give us guidance, maybe offline, as to the best way to lend our support to those
It would actually be a state bill, since the state is the author of the statute that created HHC. It would be our state assembly members, Al Taylor, Inez Dickens, and Danny O'Donnell, and our state senators, Robert Jackson and Cordell Clare.
Yeah. Okay.
And so those would be the kind of nucleus to start with. Although really, again, this is implications for the Bronx. This is implications for the Lower East Side. This is implications for Lower Manhattan and East Harlem, and anywhere where there is an HHC property. I think that there should be a public process to give input to this, either ULURP or something similar.
100%. Thank you for taking my question and my comment.
Thanks for coming. Terry Sharp.
Yes, good evening. As lived in this area for over 70 years, I find it extremely offensive that we are inundated with another possible project. This project should be stopped in its tracks, like we did with a housing project where they wanted to increase rent somewhere off of Broadway and about 138th Street. I feel that approach should be taken with this. This project is near a school. Just this morning, in talking to one of my neighbors who has 4 little ones, as she was taking her children to school, she watched people perform sexual acts and use drug paraphernalia. Why are they bringing all of this back up in here when we cleaned up this area? I don't think this should be allowed to go forward. It needs to be stopped in its tracks. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you very much. Okay. So again, Wendy, your hand's still up, but I assume that is just a mistake, unless you have something else you want to add.
A legacy hand.
No, not at all. Sorry.
I learned that at work.
But, legacy hand. But that said, as Wendy said, that Assemblymember Taylor is and Wendy are planning a meeting with the HHC. So if you have specific questions, you can send them to Wendy. It's in the chat, and MCB9 housing wendy@gmail.com is our committee email that I will send any questions on to Wendy before Monday. If you send.
Really quick, Signe, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just also wanted to say that Senator Cordell Clear has also been very involved and will be part of that meeting. We will be extending that invitation to our council members as well as our borough president.
Great. Thank you, Wendy, as always.
Just before we move on to the next topic, I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to raise my hand on this.
Okay.
But was it mentioned when this committee will report back? Will it just be at the next meeting? How will we follow along as an interested member of the community, this process? Because I think in addition to asking the questions, just sending an email with a list of questions is not going to be enough. This is impactful. It is several blocks from where I live, from several schools, not one. I think it may be even 2 to 3 schools, and it's on a corner which is it's a high thoroughfare area, and so I think it would be very helpful to have. You see the turnout on this meeting today on short notice. There are a lot of interested parties here. So it'd be very helpful to understand how we can follow along. I know that it's likely that the Hamilton Terrace Block Association and other block associations, which are part of Upper Manhattan coalitions, would like to write letters and make our views known about all of this. People are just waking up and learning about the project, but we have a lot to say on it. And I think, at least from my perspective, I don't intend to just let our electeds carry the ball on this. There's plenty I have to say on this as well, and we'd like to stay involved. So anything you could do to let us know how, the force of the community, we can be like a force multiplier to let, whoever did this, it seems like a backdoor deal, honestly, that for many years, something has been in play, a 50-year lease was going to take place. And it just seems like they wanted to avoid the conversation. And I'll make it my mission to make sure that they have that conversation with all of us. And so I'd really appreciate this committee's help, the health committee's help. And I'm sure there are other parties who would like to stay engaged on this. Let us know how we can do that.
Yep. So this, of course, this will be, I'm sure, a topic at our general board as well. We'll be recapping and if we learn more, we're going to be recapping that. This committee meets every second Tuesday. I'm sure there'll be updates before that. If you subscribe to our, if you give us your email so that we can add you to our email list for the committee, if there are important updates, I'm happy to forward them along. But really this meeting, like this meeting where everybody can come to one place, is always the best, right? So that everybody has one place to go to. So we're not, sending a million emails out. It's always annoying. But I would say definitely also attend general board meetings, which are on the third Thursdays of the month. If you go to our website, cb9m.org, our calendar of meetings is there. Of course, this affects the health committee as well. So health committee usually meets the first Monday, I believe, of the month. There are other groups in the community that have been starting to form as well. The community board, we tend to, we're influencing our elected officials. We're trying to, writing resolutions. We're advisory in nature. So we do need your voices, right? This is, William, you hit it on the head that, there's power in numbers, and we need your voices to be writing letters and doing these things as well. But if you send me your email, I'll add you to our email list as well. And if we, have more updates or more meetings on this, which could happen as well, right? Update meetings, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, are there ever, cross committee groups focused on projects, so that, a task force is a very overused term, but this clearly is something that impacts revenues, it impacts health, it impacts the general, community. And so is there a way to, maybe it's just everybody has to show up for every meeting, but, it would be helpful to have topic-based or project-based, groups to focus the effort around specific issues.
So Barry, as chair, do you want to talk about task forces and things like that?
Yes, sorry about that. Fighting with the mute button. So we do use task forces to coordinate like intercommittee responses, famously in the case of the RKO Hamilton Task Force, which is dealing with that site on 146th and Broadway and others. If you check our Facebook, there is now a pinned post about this, which might be a helpful place to post updates and questions and responses, and I will tag Signy and Liz and everyone in there. But I don't know if we have the capacity to do a task force on this right now as the community board, to be frank, given how stretched we are in terms of the number of things we're tracking. This is the second item on a very long agenda tonight, and we're already 90 minutes in. I think that the more neighbors are involved in this conversation, the better. And so I know that there are other groups and concerned neighbors that have been organizing meetings with electeds and HHC to discuss this, and I welcome that. The community board is a venue, and we are an actor. We do get involved and attempt to steer the outcome of events to ways that benefit the community, but we are primarily a venue in which community opinions are heard, information is shared, and and things are coordinated. So it's a good question. We actually thought about it in advance of this meeting and put together a whole list of ways people can get involved. But in terms of staying coordinated, Signy runs the email list for this group. We have a Facebook page on the community board, and there is a Facebook group, it appears, that was posted in the chat for folks. This will be brought up at all of our monthly meetings going forward. It will become yet another standing agenda item, I am sure. And it is something that the Health and Environment Committee and Housing, Zoning, and Land Use Committee are coordinating closely on. But we may yet wind up making a task force if that coordination has to happen in a task force, but we have not created one as of yet. To be fair, we also only found out about it 2 weeks ago. So
yeah, no, I think this is great how quickly everyone has sprung into action. I know there's a lot to go. I heard something about a Facebook group here too. Yeah. Are there open platforms where collaboration can occur? That's just not on Facebook.
So first, Barry, can I get a word?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Andres Orejuela. I live on West 145th Street between Amsterdam and Convent. First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of the members of the community board for your heroic efforts in organizing meetings, adding this to the agenda, and staying on these very, very long meetings to work through your stuff. I know you have a lot going on. Part of the problem, William, is that this project was just sort of revealed to us very, very suddenly and at a very advanced stage, right? So it's been a very hard-fought, scrappy, hodgepodge effort to get people organized. I'm working with a group called Concerned Citizens for a Better Harlem. There's a Facebook page, and believe me, we basically came together based on this topic, although it's certainly not the only thing we've been talking about, but we have things to do. So, we have ideas, we're organizing a lot, and we've been working closely with the community board. I see that Carolyn Brown is on the line, and Carolyn Brown has a fantastic organization called Coalition for Greater Harlem. And they have a bunch of data, some of the stuff that I think Jessica Martinez was talking about. So there's a lot to do. It is a little decentered, decentralized, but if you join the Facebook group and say, I'd love to help out, there is plenty that we would ask of anyone, not just William. Anyhow, that's all I really wanted to say.
Yeah, Andres, I really appreciate that, and I should thank the committee too. I think you guys are doing a great job. I just want to point out that this is not the first time that the cloak and dagger approach has been used in this community, and that's really what has me going on this. You know, it's always like this for big projects. And you know, you find out later, and then you have to really raise your voice. And you know, Carolyn Brown, I'd point out you did a great job when someone tried to slip in, you know, a new facility in a residential block next to your house. But it always happens this way, and it doesn't have to happen this way. And we should all try to make sure that it doesn't in the future. So anyway, thanks to everyone for showing up and for participating. It's just really important that we don't allow you know, these forces to organize the conversation about our community without us.
You sound like you're channeling our previous co-chair, April Tyler, who who worked very hard to get ahead of these things. It's not easy. You know, she worked diligently to get developers to come to us before the permits are filed, right? And it is a heroic task to try to do those kind of things and get ahead of the game. We've had some wins in the last few years, and we've, as you point out, had a lot of challenges. But William, you sound like an awesome candidate to join us on the community board. You going to put your application in January?
I've been trying to convince him to do so.
We'll take you as a public member.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about public members a little later. So anyway, Wendy, I think, had another comment. It is not a legacy hand this time, I believe.
Correct. I just wanted to thank William for his comments. William, you are absolutely correct. And this meeting that we're going to be holding will not be taking the place of communicating with the community. However, because this came up so suddenly and in the way that it did, the members that represent us want answers. And this is why we're speaking up at this time on behalf of the entire community. And so, like William said, we must absolutely work together. Whatever information we collect is your information. And by the way, William, I thought you were a member of the board.
No, I used to come to all the meetings. I've been in the community for about 11, 12 years. And, you know, I want the best for the community, as I know everyone here does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The best community board members are the ones that just have a heart for doing this work. It's rarely people that are looking to go into the above and beyond of politics, I find. Some of them do start out here, but you know, that is not one of my motivations as as it is. I have a heart for wanting to see people stay in their homes and wanting to see people, the right things happen, William. So yeah, that's important. We have people like that. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, this is Willie Suggs. I'm on the phone. I apologize. Can I talk for 60 seconds? Can I talk for 60 seconds?
Sure, Willie, the 60 seconds are yours.
Okay, fine. All right. Number one, if anything called out for ULURP, this is us. It's this project. I don't know why you guys are pussyfooting around it. They've lied from the beginning. It's clear deception. And for them to say that they don't know the full range of the program is BS. There's no way you can seek funding without having a scope of work. We cannot tolerate a reduction of services, elimination of one program altogether, and then the one program that they're going to let stay there, they're going to price them out by doubling the rent. Duh, what do you think? They don't want them there. Everybody knows this neighborhood is saturated with these programs. There are over 300 beds now that I know of for homeless folks. Are they going to have a drug injection site there? All right, this is very simple. Call a lawyer tomorrow. I'll call my lawyer. You run a title report on that property. They cannot transfer it if they don't own it. And if Mark Levine and the rest of these people don't want to step up, I know some people in the media, Black lives, Hamilton Heights lives, nobody's lives in this community seem to matter. As Terry Sharp said, I'm out in the street every day. Forget the drug acts. They do everything, daytime, nighttime. We're starting to look like San Francisco. So we're going to put a program there, and we're just going to sit back and go, oh, we just found out about it. It's called lying. If they're lying to you now, they're going to keep lying and hope we roll over. I'm not rolling over. Terry's been here 70 years. I've only been here since 85. And I'm not putting up with this crap. And we don't need a bunch of committees. Have a title report run. They cannot transfer the deed if they don't own it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Willie. Any other comments?
This is Karen Signey. Wow, I used to work at CB6, and we dealt with BRC, and what everyone is saying is actually true. Don't trust them. We dealt with the same situation, whereas they said it was housing, and it wound up being a shelter for drug users and just bad elements. I mean, this is down in Midtown Manhattan, like on the East Side, okay, Lower East Side. So I'm telling you, we need to dig into this a whole lot more and to really find out who's behind this. And if it's BRC, I'm telling you, we need to put a stop to it. Because I'm telling you, once they get a hold into that building and start developing it and getting the people in there, it's going to go very badly for this community.
Thank you. All of this is on record and being recorded, so be sure that, this is being all being recorded. Thank you for your passionate words. All right. Is there anything else before we close this portion? Okay. Thank you. We may lose some people, so I just want to say thank you for joining us. We are going to be talking about some other topics that I know are perhaps some things that people wanted to talk about at this meeting. I'm going to pop up on the screen the agenda again in case you want to stick around. Hold on one second. Let me find it. Here is the agenda. So we're going to be talking about 751 and 421A, and then going into some of these developments we are currently watching. There's more going on, guys. So stick around if you can. Send me your email if you want to get notifications of this committee meeting and future committee meetings. And we appreciate it very much that you are joining us and bringing your voice to the table. We need you. Okay, I'm going to move along to new business to J51 and 421A expiration discussion. Barry, I'm going to hand this over to you again, I believe. This was something that we wanted to talk about because both of these are expiring, and the question will be about what's going to happen to either replace them or what do we want to see in their stead. It's going to be in Albany this year. So Barry?
Yes. So first, I want to talk about the J51 tax abatement. The J51 tax abatement originally started as a way to incentivize landlords to add hot water to what were known as cold water apartments, meaning they didn't have hot water in the 1950s. The way it works is landlords, it was then expanded to cover many other types of major capital improvements. So if your landlord did a new roof, new boiler, new elevator, new windows, facade work, any qualifying work, there was a process by which they could submit the receipts and proof of what it cost to the City Department of Finance and certify that they had not harassed the tenants, et cetera. And they would be able to deduct the cost up to certain caps on the costs from their property taxes over the next 8 years. So they would, if they spent 150 grand, maybe 100 grand would be under the cost cap, and that would be spread out over 8 years. So they would take 12 grand off their property taxes every year. This also was available for co-ops and condos that were worth under a certain amount of money per apartment. It was a very strenuous program. It was difficult to get these tax credits. The City Department of Finance is not one to willingly let city tax revenues go. And so it was there was not a ton of abuses of J51. And legally, it then required that any rent stabilized or rent controlled apartments in the building not be decontrolled for the duration of the tax credit. So there were many lawsuits filed when people found out that their landlords had these J51 tax credits, but had illegally deregulated their apartments. So it's good for rent stabilized tenants and rent regulated tenants because it protects their rent regulation. It also is good if the major capital improvements conducted improved their lives in the building, which they frequently did. It was good for landlords because it saved them money when they had to do these necessary repairs. And it was good for working class and middle class co-ops and condos because it meant that it lowered their property tax burden when they encountered these major costs like a new roof or new elevator or et cetera. When I was treasurer of my co-op, we had to do a new roof and a new elevator and a new boiler, and we put in for J51s for all of that. And it did, lighten the burden of some of those costs. So anyway, because the state legislature allowed this to expire, no buildings can apply for new J51 tax credits, which means that the cost of these capital improvements has gone up functionally. Simultaneously, the state legislature allowed 421A, which is a very different program, to expire. 421A was a tax abatement program that allowed property developers who were building new buildings to not include the value of the increased value of the property in their tax assessments for the next, I think, 20 years. The program went through various iterations. That was adopted when they were trying to incentivize property development in the city. It was widely derided in recent years, over the past decade, as completely unnecessary now that property values are so high in New York City. There was an affordable housing requirement. I think 10 or 20% of the units had to be affordable. Originally, there was not an affordable housing requirement. There was one later added, and that expired. And so next year, there's a lot of talk about re-envisioning and reimagining these programs and adopting them in some way, shape, or form. And so given that the state legislative session in Albany starts in January, I think it'd be a good idea if before January, we came up with proposed priorities that we would like to see the state legislature enact when they re-envision J51 and 421A. So I figured this would be we should discuss this as a committee and then eventually settle on proposals that we then send to the general board or a resolution outlining our priorities that we then send to the general board to adopt and send to our state legislators. So I don't know if anyone has any broad ideas about what should be in what we care about in terms of property tax abatements for particularly major capital improvements, but also property development. And I can share my screen in a second. Let me just, boom. As kind of an outline on this. Tiffany.
I think any property tax abatements or funding from the city or the state or from the federal government should really prioritize housing like HDFCs, Mitchell Lamas, and even, if there is a single family home that needs to be rehabilitated, that should go to a family, especially a family that's already in the community. Or a family that was displaced by the community, from the community. Or, earlier today with Aaliyah, we were talking about the younger generation who might have gone off to college or even gone to college here, but are still living at home with parents who can't afford to, people in their 30s and 40s that normally should be moving on with life, but they're stuck in this limbo phase because of how unaffordable housing has become.
And it's worth noting that, in fact, certain HDFCs and Mitchell Lamas in particular are locked out of certain tax abatement programs currently. They're not eligible specifically, so that should probably not be true.
Yeah.
Laura. You're muted, Laura.
Sorry about that. I don't think that any money should go to major developers in any way to incentivize them to build. It's the last thing they need. I think what we should support and only support are programs that build affordable housing in communities like a Mitchell-Lama program. And I'm not I don't know this stuff that well, but what I do know is that these are boondoggles for developers, and that we've got to stop that and refocus and reorient who and what we're going to support in these times. And it should not be developers.
Got it.
Can I add sorry, can I just add two quick things? I wrote in the chat community land trusts, but one of the ways that this can be funded, because they always say we don't have the money, is for vacant property that we have, whether it's old housing or new housing. If you have vacancies, you shouldn't have that property. Again, increase taxes or penalties or somehow, but that's one of the ways that they can fund it.
David.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. To go back to one of the things that you touched on it, Barry, is a lot of people, in the program previous would be either deregulated or, in community and housing organizing. What we found is, we'd have to dig really deep to find out if they were J51, if they had one on the building, which would require them to have rent stabilized. So I'd say something with transparency, because, something similar to, your rent history now with the newer laws. They're supposed to be notified of the previous rent history. Maybe any changes or any annual updates like they do with window guards or anything like that, the status of that, because if they're getting a tax credit and maybe trying to do other stuff like charge a tenant for an MCI when they're getting a tax credit or something like that. So transparency would be something that I would say, I don't know if we could, besides all the other major issues, but it make it easier for tenants to get that information. So that's what I would add.
Yep. I'm going to add one, which is update cost thresholds. So many of the costs in the J51 hadn't been updated since the late 90s and early 2000s, which meant that, maybe you spent $200,000 on a new roof, but the maximum allowable cost was $70,000 under J51. You got $70,000 factored into your eventual credit, which was not going to be 70 grand. It was going to be a percentage of that. But so updating cost thresholds would be something, and mandate a scheduled update or review of cost thresholds in new program. Anyone else? So, if you, I would say require buildings receiving tax credits to only raise rent by Rent Guidelines Board rates. I mean, it's kind of a de facto or similar. If you're living in a building and you're in a market rate apartment, but your neighbor's in a rent stabilized apartment, they'll benefit from the J51's protections against rent destabilization, but you as a market rate won't. You might benefit from having a new roof, but they could still raise your rents to adjust for it. Anyone else? I'm not looking at the chat.
I raised my hand, but I'll wait for someone else to ask.
I think we should also include energy efficiency upgrades to an extent. Because I mean, those should actually pay for themselves usually.
So just a quick question. If a landlord is receiving this tax abatement, how do we ensure, is there some sort of enforcement mechanism that, where they have to prove that they're actually using the money to retrofit or upgrade their building? That's my question. Did that exist in the previous
Yeah.
J51?
So yes, and I used to joke that like they required your contractor's mother's maiden name. So there is a strong contrast between major capital improvement charges, which is what landlords would do to raise rent on people in buildings where there was a major capital improvement. Those are governed by the State Department of Housing and Community Renewal, DHCR, or division, whatever the hell they are. And DHCR was notoriously lax about those. There were no price caps. They would allow sloppy paperwork that was obviously fraudulent, blah, blah, blah. Department of Finance, though, was in a very different situation because they were not allowing landlords to raise rent on tenants. They were allowing landlords to pay less taxes, which is kind of very much not the business the Department of Finance is in. So they were very, very thorough in making sure that the work was actually done, in making sure that these were real invoices by real contractors and not with inflated costs. In fact, even if you did inflate the costs, it wouldn't matter because there were cost caps. And so that's why I think J51 was actually a decent tax program, was because it had very strong controls to prevent abuse. And you did not see J51 abuse in the same way that you did with MCI abuse.
Well, okay, I can speak from personal experience and tell you that there is a discrepancy. Looking at 512 West 136th Street, there was a J51 tax abatement on that building until 2012. The fire that killed a 15-year-old girl took place only 2 years later. And the overwhelming majority of the tenants that I spoke with told me they did not even have functioning fire alarms. They did not have self-closing doors, which would have mitigated the fire. Basic things like that were not there. So clearly there is no enforcement mechanism.
Well, I think let me push back on that, which is you don't get a J51 for keeping your building in good repair. You get a J51 for a specific capital project. So I don't know what the project was at 512 that they put in the J51 for. I don't know if it was a new boiler or a roof or an elevator. No, it wasn't an elevator, whatever. But the J51 program was not an HPD program in that it didn't mandate all conditions be safe. It mandated that the work actually be done in a way that was to code and did not harass tenants. So maybe in the new program, there should be a limit on Class C violations.
I would add that what we need is transparency. It shouldn't be so difficult to obtain information. I've been trying to get information from the Department of Finance, and I haven't gotten anything about why and how and the parameters of the J51 tax abatement that building received. That's the first thing. And the last thing is tenant harassment. There's the stipulation says that during the time that the building receives a J51, there cannot be any cases of tenant harassment. I would say that it should be extended beyond. Like, there's really no excuse for tenant harassment under any circumstances ever, period. But it's especially true if that building was getting some sort of, public funding or tax breaks. And that should be for the lifetime of that building.
Anyone else? To Laura, so we have a lot of stuff on like J51 replacement. For the new construction, Laura mentioned supporting programs like Mitchell Lama. Is there anything else that should be included in that?
Can I just say one other thing, Barry?
Mhm.
It's Laura. When I said Mitchell Lama, I meant Mitchell Lama like housing. In other words, state-supported housing for middle and low-income people. But I think that I think it's very difficult to, this is something that they really, really want. Developers really want this. They want to get supported when they build. They don't want to have to put out all their own money. And so I think that we should be trying to sort of switch up the conversation to say, to not engage in how we can modify things for them, but what we want affirmatively. I think as housing advocates, that's something that we really have to take on and not sort of kowtow to modify something that is good for them and gives us just a little bit. I think the equation should be flipped.
Right. Well, and as a community board, we don't have to write the legislation. We can just outline our priorities and demands and then send it to the electeds who have lawyers on staff to write legislation.
Exactly. I think that's our role.
Are there any other thoughts for Albany on
Yes.
money?
It's you, and one comment. For new development, there should be a mandatory inclusion for space reserved for housing, artist housing, which is, a big need in our community, or either housing or workspace.
Thank you, Ewan.
Barry, it's Alana. Can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
hi. Sorry. Would mentioning the recalculation of the AMI, I know like it includes parts of I think Westchester, and it skews the actual reality of the situation for like neighborhoods like ours. So is that something we can bring up in this particular venue or?
Yeah.
Great.
Just when we've all kind of gotten a handle on 30% AMI, 60% AMI, now we're going to use a different metric. We'll have to relearn all of it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's a really good idea. Anyone else have any ideas to send to Albany on money and housing? Okie doke.
I think Heather has one. She wrote it in the chat.
Oh, thanks. I can't see the chat when I'm sharing my screen. What did she say?
Exclude restrictions for buildings of 6 units or less, especially owner occupied. Heather, do you want to clarify, specify what you mean? Or do you want me to keep reading it?
Small building owners
should qualify or should not?
Should be excluded from these restrictions that you're adding, because small building owners can get J51 and other tax abatements. And an owner can be in their personal name as well as an LLC or corporation. They can be the primary officer or member and be considered owner occupied.
That's a great idea. I would just caution that we make sure that they're truly small homeowners and not people that have managed to gobble up property. So I'm thinking of
that's why I say owner occupied, and I specified truly owner occupied.
There's one developer in the Bronx who bought 7 brown. I guess this wouldn't apply to him because if he's not living in that unit, then it wouldn't count. But anyway, another way that they hide behind it is by buying up a bunch of properties, single family homes. Anyway, thank you.
I had also read someplace, and I think Gail was trying to start a discussion of it at city council level, but some cities, they have created a fund where new development and large development would set aside a certain amount of or percentage of the tax grant or whatever. I don't know what it was called. I have to do some research and get back to you. But it will essentially the development community would create a fund for to support the neighborhoods, the neighborhood that they're building in, to support cultural organization and youth programs. And there's several cities across the country that are doing that. But I'm going to research it tonight and send you the name of the program.
Great.
Okay.
All right. I think we've gotten a lot of really good ideas. And I will work on drafting this into a reso for next month's meeting. And then Wendy and Al and all of our electeds in Albany can look forward to meeting with us and going over what we adopt.
It is always a pleasure, Barry. Thank you.
All right, Signe.
Awesome. All right. So let's see where we are. Oh, give me 1 second. I'm on another screen. There we go. Okay. Well, I know the next agenda item is developments we're watching. So old business and developments we're watching. So I believe the first one, there may be some more folks that stuck around for this topic. We have, of course, the building that has been going up very quickly on 153rd between Amsterdam, between Riverside and Broadway. Yes, this one is frustrating. This one, we asked this developer to come many times to come talk to us. Never agreed to come. And this 28-story building has gone up with the word we all love to hate, as of right. Basically, as of right means that they have not asked for any variances from the city or anyone, so they did not have to come to us officially. That does not mean they shouldn't have come to us. We have been encouraging developers to come to us early and talk to us to make sure that they get the community involved. My understanding is that there will be a community portion space on the bottom. So the question is, where do we go from here? How do we stop this in the future? 28-story buildings in that area. This is not something that we want to see continue happening. So I'm going to open this up for some discussion because I do not have the answer. We all need to put our minds together. I'm going to let people raise their hands to start the chat. Unless anyone on the committee first that wants to take any, make any comments on this. I'm opening up to committee members first, just to get the minds going. No? Okay, I'll go to hands. UN.
Hi. Well, you know what my answer
I
is,
know.
right?
Everyone should be supporting Yuen's effort to West Harlem Historic District. Yes, go for it. You can say it.
We have to look at the zoning and begin to talk to our electeds and the bar president to be, what do you call it, the ambassador or the pusher of, of getting city planning to relook at those areas along Riverside and another end of the district that we somehow overlooked in the 2013 rezoning. I was shocked to learn that there, the zone in the R8 something, what is it, R8A for that area?
It's R8 flat.
R8.
It would be a lot better if it were R8A, trust me.
Oh, yeah. So I think that is the first step to get the bar president and the council member to agree to champion and get city planning to move on this. We might have a problem with city planning, Dave, and the committee that Dave Garodnick chairs, because his mandate is to find, more affordable housing in the city. But I think it's, that building is a travesty. And if we stop that, it's still, it's such it would be a sore point in perpetuity, because then it will have commanded the 360 free unobstructed view, which is one of the things that they're selling the apartments on, but we just can't afford, the community can't afford to have another one like it come up. So rezoning, a look at the zoning and getting that downgraded. And also the ULURP, even if it's as of right, they should be not, I've been told that a ULURP would be difficult, and to get that even considered, it would be extremely difficult because developers would push back. I think that's what Gail told me, last year. But there should be some accountability, some review, some community input on projects of a certain size.
We always say follow the money, and anything that gets some sort of kickbacks. There needs to be more kick in of ULURP is what we've been talking about all night.
Right. But the review process and the downzoning. Yeah. Thank you.
So that is one approach, and probably one of our strongest approaches to avoid this in the future. I see Liz. Liz, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Signy. Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Ewan is saying, I think the project on 153rd is a very a good example of zoning that does not fit within the built environment. And I don't know. I mean, I think the ULURP process is probably the community's strongest process of having an impact on something like that. But there really should be some kind of mechanism where if there is a proposal that is a certain percentage of either height or bulk over the surrounding area, it should have to trigger something. I understand what they built was as of right, but you look at it and it's so completely out of context. There must be I would love to see this committee, recommend a proposal, whether it's, to amend ULURP or some other, law, that if it's a certain percentage over the bulk or height of some kind of square radius surrounding the project, that it triggers community review. I took a picture on Sunday night from the roof of my building. And of course, I live on the tallest building on top of a hill, but we have a gorgeous view of the George Washington Bridge. And on 9/11, they put the tower lights on GWB. And it's one of my favorite things to see the bridge all lit up. And I can't put the picture in the chat. I would love for everyone to see it, but it's really just devastating to see that this tower, from at least our perspective on 141 looking north, the tower on 153rd is taller than the bridge and interrupts that view. I know we can't do anything about that, but to avoid that happening in the future would be obviously what we should focus our time and attention on.
Yeah. Agreed. Barry, as far as like a formal proposal from CB9 to revise the ULURP, kick-in process.
I nominate Liz to write a draft. Or someone to write a draft of what she just said about percentages. But I think the other the other thing we can do, though, is we can start a public pressure campaign on the mayor and the electeds, and particularly the Landmarks Preservation Commission, to, finally take up the West Harlem Historic District. We have 2 historic districts pending for our community district. We've got this one, which is, the most significant historic district creation in north of 135th since the Hamilton Heights Sugar Hill Historic District, which is mostly east of the area that this is covering. And then we also have the Morningside Heights Historic District Extension, or Phase 2, which is adding landmark historic district protections to vulnerable areas in Morningside Heights, which, spent 15 or 20 years, Laura Friedman would know the number, getting its initial district, which only happened a few years ago. And so, the LPC is dragging its feet, and it's telling us, oh, well, you're Manhattan. Like, Manhattan already has a lot of landmarks. And I want to say, yeah, Manhattan below 96th Street does. Harlem and Washington Heights are 2 of the most neglected areas for historic protections of architecture. And that is because of a sort of landmark redlining that has occurred in this city since the landmarks law was passed. And it's because history and architecture and culture of areas that were not predominantly white are valued less by the LPC.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is not an argument that is original to me. Michael Henry Adams has been screaming this from rooftops for 30 years or more.
Yeah.
But, we can still write letters and call our electeds and the LPC and point that out to them and pressure them to change it.
Yeah.
And support these 2 historic districts.
And so I have a question for UN. If people want to write letters in support to LPC, is there a template out there somewhere or something that can help people get off the get that done, like a template of a letter or something that you might have in your back pocket?
No, I do not. I'd have to put one together.
Yeah. I'm just trying to make it, make it easy for people. So y'all can send a letter to LPC to support these things.
Okay.
I'd be happy to send that out.
Okay. All right. I'll not this week.
Yeah, no, understood.
Yeah, okay, but I will.
It's just another tool we have in our tool belt. So
okay. All right, no problem.
Let's see. I see hands. Are these any legacy hands or I've got any more comments on 153rd? Laura, I'm going to do you after the developments, unless you want to talk about this particular.
I was just going to say, this is not about what I'm going to talk about later, but this is just to say that the historic district in Morningside Heights took 25 years to get. It was no quick thing, but let me say that the squeaky wheel is what it's all about with LPC. You just got to push and push and push. And we do have on the Morningside Heights Historic District Committee's website, we do have letters that we've sent and petitions, etc. And we also, it's organizing. It's all about organizing and getting people to call and pressure from the electeds, etc. It's not a quick process, but it's a possible process.
Yeah. Barry, are you a legacy hand, or you have anything?
No, I have one thing to say. I will be brief about it. But so this was a former Verizon garage. But one of the things that characterizes CB9 as a district is that there are not many soft sites for development. There are very few vacant lots. There are very few abandoned buildings, and there are very few one-story buildings or garages that are there for development. And I always tell people, I am not anti-growth and I am not anti-development. As April Tyler used to say, we are not the community board of no. But given that we have such limited opportunities for new development in our district, we should absolutely be making sure that those opportunities are made the most of in terms of providing what this district actually needs, whether that's community facilities for primary care or mental health care, whether it's deeply affordable housing, which is probably what the majority of those spaces should be used for. That's what should happen in those developments, or in those soft sites. And so childcare is another example. I didn't mean just those things, but what does the community need? Those are the few places where we really have an opportunity to make it happen. And to leave it to the whims of private developers, this is a missed opportunity. This is yet another site that's going to be more luxury housing that we don't need, that nobody needs, really. I mean, there's plenty of empty condos in the Time Warner Center. I'm just going to put that out there. There's plenty of unsold inventory on Park Avenue, and Billionaires Row, according to the reports. So why they think we need more of that here, is ridiculous. Anyway, so my 2 cents.
Yeah. Is there any other hands that want to go up for 153rd? Ideas, thoughts? We will also, committee members, I just want to remind you that on Saturday, we'll be having a visioning meeting for our committee. So if you're a committee member, I'll be sending you an email reminder about that, but try and get our ducks in a row on some visioning meeting there. This will be on there. The next development update I have on the list is 142nd and Riverside, the building that went through ULURP last year, and it was voted down to up zone after very hard work from this committee and community members that spoke up and voiced their opinions. Liz, I believe that you have a bit of an update because you walk by there every day.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you do. Get kicked off boards. So 142 in Riverside Drive. So the developer has started doing asbestos abatement, at least in the last row house. I filed a complaint with the city, I think there were a couple of neighbors who did. And the city got back saying that they did have the Department of Environmental Protection. They did have the appropriate permits, although what was like in the door was like a handwritten note, something, and then there was some kind of like flimsy white like bag-like thing was in the lot next door, and it was just kind of thrown there. It all seemed quite haphazard. I did not witness any type of inappropriate work or anything that would really be concerning in terms of the asbestos removal. But that is ongoing. They don't, what's that?
Go ahead, go ahead.
And so I just keep monitoring the DOB to see if they have a permit for the demolition. They have no permit so far. I sort of assume that the next step will not actually be the demolition of the buildings, but that they need to be disconnected from the various services. So Con Ed, all of that. I assume once I see, you know, the sawhorses go up and a notice that, you know, there's going to be work on the sidewalk, that will be the next thing to happen. But, you know, the word from the super is that the developer plans on building a 14-story tower, which they would have to go through ULURP. So it sounds like, there was one other piece, and I didn't know this myself. Apparently, the developer died, and I didn't know this.
Wait,
He
which
died,
one?
well, David Marantz.
The young guy?
No, it was their father.
Oh.
And he had two sons, and he gave the development business, my understanding is, not to the son who we saw on our meetings, but to the other son. And the other son doesn't want the buildings torn down and thinks they should just use them. I forgot, someone told me this just the other day. And the other son, who apparently was not given the property, wants to tear them down.
Do they have a demolition permit? I forget.
No, they don't, Ewan.
No, they have no permits.
So then we need to get to landmarks so that, okay.
Well, so yes, to Ewan's point, the landmark district would cover these buildings and protect them from demolition. To Stigny's point and Liz's point about a 14-story building, we should set up a meeting with Sean Abreu's office ASAP, the council member for that area, to make sure that they make it very clear to the developer in any preliminary discussions that that is completely unacceptable and not going to fly. Okay, so here is the deal, right? On 153rd Street, that area was not rezoned since the 1960s and allowed for that monstrosity to be built. In 142nd Street, it was rezoned in 2011.
Right.
It was contextually rezoned to prevent this from happening. And the developer then immediately started buying these to try to file a ULURP zoning application to upzone it for a tower so they could tear them down. And we as a community board and the community pushed then Councilmember Mark Levine very hard, who made it clear to the developer that this was not going to fly, and the developer withdrew the permit. And apparently, you know, we're in this situation now. So we should definitely meet with Sean Abreu's office ASAP. And then we should also try to meet with his son that inherited these properties and say, how can we help you not tear these down?
Because he can build back and up to an acceptable height, and he can also build out the footprint of the property, you know. That will give him.
Well, but you know, throw a little roof deck or something on the top of these things and sell them for $4 million.
Or do that, right?
You know, I mean, I'm not for $4 million townhouses everywhere in our neighborhood, but it's a better outcome than whatever crap they're going to try to throw up there.
Was it the
I didn't know that little piece until the other day, and I was just checking my phone because I did have the emails for both brothers. But yeah, we should, someone should reach out to the brother who was given the real estate portfolio and see if we can negotiate with them directly.
It's interesting how he left it with the son who does not want to demolish them. I mean, Maybe he's trying.
Who
Maybe
knows?
he-
Family
yeah.
dynamics. We don't know what's up.
Maybe he died from the pressure from this, from the other side.
It was our fault, UN. It was our
Ewan,
fault.
don't put that on us. Don't put
No,
that
no,
on
no,
us.
no. I'm saying pressure from the son who wants to demolish it.
Let's move on. So we'll schedule those
Okay.
2 follow-up meetings. Let's move on to the next item. I don't like where this is
Yes,
going.
thank you. We won't go farther there, right? Okay, next development, St. Luke's. So last we heard a Supreme Court judge approved the sale to investors. Who were they? Now there's a Patch article that lists Mojo Capital Management is the group, I guess, that bought it according to that article. Now I don't know if that is 100% accurate. I haven't seen anything in writing.
Signe, sorry, what was the name of the group that bought it?
What's that?
I'm writing the notes. What's the group that?
MOJO Capital Management LLC. I looked them up as the group that seems to have 435 West 141 Millennium LLC. That's the owner of, the group that has that, and that was listed in the Patch article. So we should follow up with that. We should talk a little bit more about that on Saturday. But are there any other updates that anybody's heard about with St. Luke's that perhaps we don't know about?
Is Geddes on the line, on the call? William? No, he's not there. Okay, they haven't closed yet. It's still in the process, as far as I know.
Yes, I've heard that the sale has been approved, but it hasn't closed.
Okay, thank you, William.
Yeah.
And I know that architects went through the building yesterday because one of them is a friend of mine, and I ran into him on the corner and he was going inside the building with the Reverend. So it's definitely going forward.
Does sorry, I think you were asking if I was around, but
No, not you, Geddes, but sorry, I forgot that there are 2 Williams on there.
The other William.
He's the important William.
Right, he answered, yeah.
I just did have one follow-up question. If the architect was around, is the proposed use of this new building for the new owner known?
Don't believe so. I don't even know. If the sale hasn't closed, I don't know.
I will also say that the architect is a preservation architect, and he told me that there was a stained glass expert who's also a friend of mine, that she was there as well. So both of those made me think that, we are talking about someone who understands that the church itself needs to be restored. What else goes on that site, I have no idea, but I was glad to know that 2 people that I know and trust were being brought in.
Is there any more information you can glean from your architect friend? Do a little sleuthing?
Yeah, well, and Ewan, do you know Angel? You know Angel.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's who it was. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I mean, I think
Well,
either one of
tell
us.
you.
Yeah.
Okay. This is how we piece things together. Thank you.
The Hamilton Terrace Block Association does have speaking of task forces, we do have Karen Asner is kind of on top of this issue. She couldn't be with us tonight, but keeping our block association informed on this issue. She has a lot of background in real estate law, and she's on top of it. But she relayed to me that there's not a whole lot more information that we can, share. But we're watching it very closely, of course.
Yeah. Well, we welcome all the minds together on it. So we want to see the best option there for our community. So, Okay, unless anything else on that topic, St. Luke's, I'm going to move along. A couple other quick things that we wanted to put on there. There is the building at Convent and 149, 150 that looks like it is set, has a demolish order on it. And UN, you had,
Yeah.
brought that also to
Um,
attention.
It looks like the demolition is on hold for the moment.
Yeah.
Landmarks is working with closely with the Department of Buildings. I did get the borough president involved, and he had his land use person intercede. And when last I heard from LPC's attorney, the owner has now engaged another structural engineering company, one that is quite large and well known and is reputable. So they've resubmitted the application to stabilize the building to DOB, and it looks like it has been accepted because LPC, I was told by them, yes, what is today? Today's on Monday, that they were working on a permit. They were working on a permit to authorize the stabilization work to take place. DOB, what they have been doing is they've been sort of leading the process by renewing the demolition permit for every 2 weeks. So as it, to keep the owner engaged, and also for her to realize if she should, default in any of the arrangement, that the demolition permit within a 2-week period could go into effect.
Okay, so it sounds like some
good news.
Say, tentative optimism.
Yes.
UN mighty work, just keeping up on that. Thank you. You are one of those people that follows through and cares. We appreciate that very much.
Well, so much hard work by the community has been put into this historic district. It's just such a shame whenever we lose one.
Yeah. So thank you very much. And I understand that this owner owns some other buildings in our district, so we need to keep an eye on that, right?
Yeah, there are 2 on Hamilton Terrace and another on Convent Avenue.
Yeah.
And the 2 on Hamilton Terraces, William Geddes will attest to. I mean, they've been.
I was gonna say, William, do you know anything about those?
Yeah, vacant for years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually, I think the New York Post is doing a profile of this woman. I was contacted by a reporter from the Post, and she actually got through to her. We've never been able to get through to her, but she's doing some sort of a story that's going to come out soon. I just said both buildings were a blight on the neighborhood, and
who leaves buildings vacant on Hamilton Terrace?
I know. It's crazy.
So you'll see a story coming out soon in the Post.
we wait with bated breath. Thank you, William.
How much does she want for one?
Doesn't want to give it up.
Apparently, she doesn't want to sell them.
I'll give it up.
Oh my gosh.
She's paying the taxes, or at least on one of them, mostly. And
she's about to find a squatter in one of them in a minute here, as soon as we're done with this meeting.
Right. I'm not sure.
Squatter wouldn't be able to get in, Barry. Apparently, one of them at least is filled with garbage to the ceiling.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty bad.
Okay, well, I hear
one of those buildings be 47
and 60, 47 and 60.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna move along. The last one that I have under new developments, then I'm gonna bump up MHCC a little bit so Laura can give us an update on something. So the building by Montefiore Park, the corner building there, I know that has been on our radar. I'm wondering if anybody has any further updates. My understanding is that the doctor's office is staying and all the other businesses have been vacated, and there are plans. Anybody have more updates on that? I think Lois, you might have mentioned that to me a while back. Anybody have further updates? Knowledge share?
I don't, but I thought we were talking about a different building. The building on Hamilton Place with the Muebleria that closed and the church on the second floor,
Right.
that's also a soft site in a historic former theater. And that place owes like 60 grand in back taxes. So is at definite risk of like sale and redevelopment, and we should reach out to them ASAP.
I believe that's the one we're talking about, so.
No. The one with the doctors. We talking about the one where the McDonald's was,
Yeah.
or the one? No.
No.
That's one where the McDonald's was. I'm talking about the
I thought it was-
one.
Maybe it's a church, I'm thinking.
It's
not
a church. It's a church.
All
Yeah,
right.
right on the plaza. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I'm just.
The McDonald's building is being renovated, and I've spoken to the owner, and that seems,
well,
you know.
The not the McDonald's building, but the other building is the one that.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Barry, you said the follow-up there is.
We need to reach out to the owner and get them to a meeting, because, you know, what could happen here is the owner sells for much less than the building is worth because they don't have the income to cover the property taxes, which they now are in arrears on. And then the developer gets a steal on the property and nonetheless builds like some awful high rise that blocks the light to the school and the park.
Yeah.
And contains no affordable housing, and yeah, bad news bears.
Okay, so that is the end of our developments we're watching section, and it is 9:15, so maybe we can clip along here. Laura, you're next. Give us an update on what you got for Morningside Heights.
Well, thank you so much. You know, Barry, one of the things that you said was, I don't know why they want to build luxury housing, more luxury housing. And when we raised this with one of the big towers that came up on 122nd Street, the first one, we said to the guy, the developer, you know, there's no affordable housing in here. What's up with that? And he said, oh no, you're wrong. There is affordable housing here. It's affordable housing for millionaires. So I guess that's what they want to build up there. It's incredible. But we had another reaction from Columbia University when we said, you provide no affordable housing, and all this stuff that you have, you provide no affordable housing for the community. And they said, oh no, you're wrong. We do provide affordable housing. We provide affordable housing for our students and our faculty. We said, okay, what about everybody else? And to that end, we have formed a new committee called the Just Housing Committee. And that's justice for housing for people who need affordable housing in the Morningside Heights community. And there are a lot of people that need affordable housing, and there's a critical lack of it up here. And so we are having a rally. And just by way of a little bit of background, everybody knows that we share our community with about a dozen large institutions. These institutions own almost all the property up here. And so we are now trying to get them to commit to where they have rent regulated apartments, which are not housing Columbia University people, but just regular community residents that were in the buildings when they bought the buildings. We're saying keep those apartments for community members in perpetuity. Do not, when those people move or die, they revert back to Columbia. No, keep those as your affordable housing contribution to the neighborhood. We have written a paper on this and made this proposal to Bollinger and to the Columbia University. And we're also asking them when they buy property, and they buy it all the time, as you well know, when they sneaky dog bought up all of Manhattanville, to along with the people that they put in it, the resident, either the students or the faculty or whatever, that they keep a set aside for deeply affordable housing for members of the community and others. And so this is our demand. To that end, we're having a kickoff rally on Sunday, October 2nd from 12 to 2 at 114th and Broadway. And we're asking everybody to come, hear some of the comments, express your solidarity, and making the first public stance that we've been able to make in a while. You know, we've been really shut down because of COVID. Now, I want to say that a few years ago, Community Board 9 passed a resolution in support of these concepts. And in fact, April Tyler helped us develop the resolutions. So it's not new to Community Board 9, but we're now able to start going public in the streets once again. And so this is our first stab at it. I will put the information in the chat, and we hope that you can come and see us and stand in solidarity around. So that's Sunday, October 2nd from 12 to 2 at 114th and Broadway. And just very quickly, you know that we also have a committee on trying to get an elevator into 125th Street that goes from the street to the platform. And we've been working with our council member, Sean Abreu, on this. He's been very good, and we're trying to get Columbia to throw in their fair share, along with meeting with the MTA. That's moving along. If you're interested in that, please let me know, and we'll make sure that you get all the information you need. And finally, on the rezoning of Morningside Heights, like you, we have not been rezoned. Well, parts of you have been rezoned. We haven't been rezoned at all since 1960. And now we're fighting. We've gotten much closer. We actually, they've hired a consultant to do an EAS, and that moves the process along. So that's just a very brief and quick update, but I hope you can come to the rally on Sunday, October 2nd from 12 to 2 at 114th and Broadway. Thank you.
Where's Tom DeMott?
Tom DeMott died.
He did?
Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right.
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This brings back memories of his demonstration. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was a very important figure.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Laura. Just
Thank you, Signy.
just yet another one of our, as Barry put it, I liked allies in the fight for affordable housing and all the many issues we're dealing with, and we cannot do it alone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next thing, a quick note about public members, if we have any non-committee members left on this call. We are very proud of our public members on this committee. I think many of them have moved on to be permanent community board members at times. It takes all of us, and it takes folks getting to know what the community board does and elevating themselves to help a little bit more and a little bit more, and eventually we get more board members, which is great. People who already know something about what we're doing. We have a group of public members that apply to be public members. They are doing some great work. We did over the summer a workshop about kind of a workshop and discussion about land use and zoning, and thinking outside the box a bit with city land use and zoning. It was an interesting discussion we had. And we're planning to do another one in the months to come on Housing 101, basically. So that will be public meetings where everyone's invited to learn with us, join us. And I know that the public members are gonna work to help that happen. I'm going to put once again up on my screen ways you can get involved. I had that up earlier. And where is my screen? Oh, there we go. So remember that you don't have to be a full community board member to get involved and help out. You may have one issue that you came for tonight that you wanted to discuss, learn more about, and raise your voice about, and that's what we need from the community. But these are other ways you can get involved: coming to the meetings, staying informed, being responsible for reports like Laura just did from allies, as Barry puts it here, like Palante, HDFC Coalition, MHCC, and the Concerned Coalition, the Concerned Citizens group and groups that have been forming. Some other ways you can get involved, right? Take on outreach tasks and research tasks. Do you like to do a little research? We'd be happy to have you come and tell us what you've learned. And monitoring public notices. Again, you know, sometimes these things can, you know, public notices can happen and we don't see them because we can't watch them all at all times. So keeping an eye on that. And then getting the neighbors to write the letters to agencies and elected officials about specific things and getting ahead of the game, right? So ahead of the game before developers get their permits in. That is other ways you can get involved, and being a public member is another way. So this would be a public member for the housing committee, just extra support and ways to get things done. Are there any questions about public members? We can, you know, go into more detail at another meeting, but Tanya, I think, is Jared here still? Because Jared's a public member.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, hey. So thank you again, you and Tanya, for putting together the summer program. Did you want to say anything about public members and some of the work that you guys do, or?
Yeah, no, just briefly, it was really rewarding. I think it was a really great conversation we had this summer with the borough president's
Oh my God,
office.
it was great, yeah.
Yeah, and looking forward to putting more things together. I think there's the leadership training this fall with the borough president's office, and yeah, so just looking forward to, you know, whoever's interested, we could certainly use the help in putting things together.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared.
Sure, thank you.
I thought I would just very quickly also mention at this public meeting with everyone that there are job openings available in the CB9 office, right, Barry? So these are some great, I would say, entry-level positions. Maybe someone coming out of college that wants to learn more and get involved in more city government and wants a job in that kind of field. And this is a great starting point. Barry, do you want to say anything more about that, or you have something else?
Yes.
Oh, does not require a college degree, though. There you go.
We are hiring. We do not require a college degree, although we welcome those, and we welcome, you know, folks, especially who are bilingual in Spanish and English. That's also not a requirement. But we have two positions open. One is an entry-level position that is really great for folks, you know, who want to get their feet in the door in terms of learning about, you know, community and government and, you know, social and political issues and what it takes to do that. And the other is for a slightly more senior position that has a greater role in kind of managing our finances and budget with the city, and also supporting the community board and other tasks. But Signy, I did want to just ask if I could give the update on the till stuff. I think we might have.
Yeah, I kind of had it. Yeah, it was coming up, but yeah, like, why don't we do it?
Oh, it was coming up. I'm sorry. I thought we were.
Oh yeah, it was coming up. We hadn't got there yet.
I'll wait till we're at it then. But yes,
there was
so
just, I think, one more thing in between, but
I'm gonna just post the job link and the job posting in the chat.
Okay, that sounds good. And we have a couple of hands. Tiffany, did you have did you have a question? Her hand is now down. So Yuen, did you have your question?
Oh, sorry. I thought I took myself off of mute, but it was just a comment in response, or because Laura had mentioned Columbia University, and I was just going to say, and I really hope more people start having this conversation publicly. An institution like Columbia University has somewhere around, I think it's $3 billion, billion with a B, as in bullshit, as their endowment, and yet it is designated as a nonprofit institution. And also, I believe it is the city's third largest landlord. So I would really love for more people across the state, and perhaps across the country, to question why universities like Columbia and others have billions of dollars of endowment, and yet they're designated as nonprofits.
I just want to correct you and say it's 11 billion, not 3.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Last time I checked, yeah, it's been a couple of years. It's ridiculous either way.
It is ridiculous.
I always make the point that, you know, these institutions, they're here way before us and way after us, and the accumulated wealth is more than probably any of us can ever imagine. And it's, you know, hundreds of years that they're around. So
I always say that Columbia is not smarter than us, and it's not better at this than us. It just has infinite money and an unlimited time horizon.
exactly. They'll be here a long time after us, and I've been here
Well,
before.
there are also a lot more of us. And when more of us start speaking out, we can call out injustices like this. So we've had worse institutions that have existed, that have exploited human beings. So we don't have to put up with it.
Yeah. All right. So next on the agenda, and I'll just, Barry, it's coming up. The next item, what computer? NYCHA, Manhattanville. Barry, we wanted to see if the TA, I don't think anybody's here tonight from that, but if they had a feeling of the numbers of residents and their opinions on the packed red.
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to get to address that tonight. I don't think anyone is here from them.
I don't think anyone's here, so I just had it on there in case anyone was, but I don't think anyone is. So I don't see Dan or anyone with, unless has anyone met on the RKO Hamilton Theater Task Force recently? I don't think so. So I doubt we have any updates there. I'll check in with Dan in the meantime, but those were the two in between before the TIL updates. So go for it, Barry.
So the Tenant Interim Lease Coalition had a meeting with several council members today. Council members Richardson, Jordan, Abreu, Hudson, and Gonzalez, I think, were there in person, and there were a couple others who sent staff members. Almost all of the ones that have TIL buildings. Tenant interim lease buildings, or TIL buildings, are buildings that are owned by the city of New York because they foreclosed on the landlords who owned them, usually during the 70s and 80s, because the landlords abandoned the building and didn't pay property taxes. The buildings enter the TIL program when 60% of the tenants agreed to give up their rent regulated leases and form a tenants association that would manage the building for free. And the city would do the major capital improvements to bring it, to make it viable again, and then would sell the building to tenants for $250 an apartment, at which point it would become an HDFC cooperative. That's how most HDFCs were created. There are still buildings in TIL, but the city for the past 15 years has been refusing to make the agreed upon improvements and has been refusing to put them through TIL and has transferred them to a different program called ANCP, which leaves them, if they ever convert to HDFCs, with tens of millions of dollars worth of debt. To my knowledge, only one building has come out of ANCP, and it was in foreclosure like within a year of coming out of the program. So the ultimate goal of ANCP is to get these buildings into the hands of developers. Anyway, it's a complicated program. HPD lies about it all the time, so don't believe a fucking word HPD says about it. Sorry, but we've spent many years on this board fighting HPD about this. But essentially, the coalition asked the city council members to refuse to authorize any buildings to be transferred out of the TIL program in their districts, to create a dedicated capital line item in the budget for funding till repairs to be done directly by the city. So when Gail Brewer was borough president, she attempted to allocate capital funding, discretionary capital funding she had to make the repairs in some of these buildings to allow them to exit till. And HPD told her that even if she allocated the money, it would still take the form of a loan. And so till needs its own dedicated capital line in the budget to allow for capital funding to directly repair these buildings without loans attached, and to, you know, continue to keep their tenants in their districts who are in till buildings organized and educated about this, and to fight HPD misinformation. So it was a successful meeting in that respect. I think there's going to be a follow-up meeting with City Council Central Staff Finance Division to try to get them to create that capital line item in the next budget. But so some hopeful progress there. There was also an update on a lawsuit out in Brooklyn that is pointing out that what the city is doing is patently illegal. And the city council has been asked to file an amicus brief in that lawsuit, which the city lost and is now appealing.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, Yuen, did you have a question? I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Yes, I do. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Yolanda Torres, and I used to be a member of Community Board 9, but now I'm just sitting down. One of my main concern is housing in our neighborhood, and the LIO HPD to the community that try to get organized to be fighting for the affordable co-op. And just speaking about till, I could tell you many lies of the city. I work with 25 families in Hamilton Heights, and I have been organizing them for the past 7 years. And we have been trying to network with all the local organizations, call it, Palante, I call it Community Housing for Community Improvement, call it CLOSE, and all this. And at the end of the day, we are 25 very low income families that I'm fighting with the city, together with them to, and then the so-called empowering the community, and all the bunch of lies with the city. To give you an example, like we asked 7 years ago to the city HPD to give us the opportunity to, together with other community members, to rehab 505, 523, and 134th Street. And those buildings have been abandoned. I worked with people 20 years ago, and those buildings have been abandoned for 20 years and closed. And another bunch of other city-owned properties in this community that we know about that have been closed. And the city, HPD is just doing that, telling community people no, cannot be done, and giving the building to developers that have nothing to do with the residents of the community. And a lot of other red tape about the lottery of the city that I know of, that I could talk to you privately about, some of those local organizations that had a lot to be cleaned up with the so-called lottery for the low-income people in this neighborhood that we need to be clear about. It's a lot of, things happening under the table sometimes in this lottery that we need to be aware of. And just say, I would like to get connected with those working in housing, and I invite the people that I work with to be part of this housing community as housing committee and community board as a guest. We know officially member of the community board. We had a lot to tell you about our long history working for the affordable co-op in this community.
Thank you for coming, Ms. Torres. Did you say 505 and 523 West 134th were the buildings?
Yes. And they told us no 7 years ago, right?
Yes.
And now those buildings are in some of the hands of some developer, and obviously are not for the community overall. I don't care how that 50% of lottery has a lot of things that I could tell you about that. How many of our members are going to that lottery for nothing and then be not qualified at the end? I could tell you a long, many years of that story about who qualifies and how they make one. They
Can
may
you-
qualify for one thing. So just so maybe it's another conversation, but I want to raise my voice along with the voices of the people that are presenting here tonight. And it's a lot to talk, and it's a lot of investigation to be done. Who gets what? Who piece of the pie is for whom in this community? We live here for over 30 years, half of my life and half of the life that I work, the people that I work with. Low income, poor, working class, fighting to stay in the community that they clean up from 20 years ago.
Can you put your email and phone number in the chat?
I
Just so that we
certainly
can
will.
contact
Certainly
you?
will.
Thank you. Because it's good. We always need, to be connected about the people who are caught up in Till and HPD's machinations and plots.
And also that, okay, anyway, yes. I will use my email and invite you to whatever, and we could just keep this conversation going. But housing, we had to be more clear and more deliberate and far more aggressive about the local people that have been in this community for over 20-something years, 30 years, fighting for a decent place to live. They had to work 120 hours weekly to be able to pay a rent in one corner. Come on, give us a break.
Well said, Ms. Torres. Thank you and welcome back. UN, did you have another comment? I see your hand is raised. Or is that
No,
a leg?
I'm out.
Are we at the end?
We're almost there.
Okay, I just wanted to make an announcement, and if we're close to the end, then I'll wait on until the end. But if we're not, I might have to jump off.
I think we're probably 5 minutes away if you can hang on.
Okay, so I'll wait until you're finished.
Tiffany, do you want to comment on this?
So one call to action for buildings that were put in the Till program. I can think of at least a few shareholders. And I would say surreptitiously had their buildings removed from the program and put in the hands of private developers. Those buildings should be returned to the Till program and or really become HDFCs. Those shareholders were working really hard for years to become shareholders. They attended all the workshop meetings through UHAB, and they were told, okay, you guys need to go somewhere else for a bit while we renovate the building. And after the renovation process was completed, however, they were told that the building is now owned by such and such real estate or realty company. I don't have the address offhand, but it's a friend of mine who is the president of that. Well, her tenant association, she would have been the board president, but the building is no longer in the Till program somehow. There's been a lot of
Is that legal?
things happening in, yeah, it's theft. It really is theft. But when you have the city and you have been all, you have aided and abetted by the city, this is where we are. So I'm just making the call or the request that any building that was in the Till program and somehow removed from the Till program and then became under private ownership, that building should be returned to those tenants to become full-fledged HDFCs.
Got it. And the next thing on the agenda was HDFC updates. Is there anyone from the coalition here tonight? I don't think so. The HDFC coalition is our ally on the front for HDFCs. I do know Barry had mentioned that there is some HDFC technical assistance getting rolled into what's called Owner Resource Center program at HPD, and we have the opportunity perhaps to give some input on what we would want there. I don't think I'm going to go into a long discussion with that, but let's think about that for what we would want, and perhaps we'll put a little more thought into that for next meeting. Barry, was there anything else on that you wanted to let us know about or talk about? He might.
Sorry, it's dinner time for cats, so I'm multitasking.
No, I figured.
So yeah, this came up in the Manhattan Borough Budget consultation with HPD last week.
Yeah.
They are moving to baseline a budget for what used to be called their landlord ambassador program. It's now called the Owner Resource Center, and they're going to fold in HDFC technical assistance there. I think that honestly, I don't love HPD having anything to do with HDFCs anymore since they're so corrupt. At least the department that handles that. But you know, I think that neither you have nor NHS, which so you used to have the contract perform technical assistance. They were caught rigging the bidding process with HPD, so they lost it. It was given to NHS, which had never worked with HDFCs and was incapable of working with HDFCs, so NHS lost it. Now they're trying to give it to Habitat for Humanity, who also doesn't work with NHCs. It doesn't make any sense. But you know, what do HDFCs actually need as resources and services in order to do well and thrive? I think access to alternative dispute resolution systems would be a big one, because co-op, like usually if there's a problem in a co-op that can't be resolved, you know, by talking to people in the co-op, it goes to the courts. It's a lawsuit, and most people don't have money for lawyers. So like access to mediation or arbitration services would be a big thing. You know, management and like financial management would be things, but yeah, those are just some thoughts of mine. But I wanted to flag it because I know it's so important to our community. We have the most HDFCs of any community board in the city, and you know, HPD is probably going to screw this up.
So tell them what we want. All right. Is Ilana still on? And I have a feeling that I know the answer, but do you have anything you want to say about the film and task force update, TV task force? If she's still on. I don't know if I see her. I don't think she's still on. Probably had to feed kids and cats. All right. So we do have a film and TV task force that covers issues about, you know, there's lots of issues regarding parking and bringing, you know, businesses in our areas, maybe some business from that. That isn't a task force that you can join when they meet. Not sure when she'll be meeting next, but that's something that we do have as a film and TV task force. So with that said, we do not have any action items, it being the first meeting of the year, and we have not drafted anything, but we will have some next time, I believe. So we'll, with that said, no action items. Anybody know what the next item is? That would be adjourn. Now, Yuen, you have an announcement.
Quick mention.
Oh, yes.
We are planning a one-day historic preservation conference at City College. As a follow-up to the one-day conference we had in 2018. And after tonight, I think I would love to work in affordable housing in some way into one of the panel discussions. So the two dates floated by City College are October 29th or December 3rd. We're having a short pre-planning meeting with a few of the historic preservation groups in West Harlem, Morningside. Tomorrow, if Tiffany and what's his name? Oh, that works with LPC. If anyone wants to join, just let me know. You know who I'm speaking. Anyway, just let me know.
Tiffany Brown?
Huh? No, LPC.
Oh, what time is this meeting?
Huh?
I think it's me, it's Jared.
Jared, yes, you.
I said it, nobody heard it. I was like, I think she's Jared.
What time is the meeting, Ewan?
It's at 11, and I will just send out the Zoom link. to Jared, Tiffany, Signe, Barry, Laura, and anyone else who might be interested in just offering some input in helping me to frame the panel discussions. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Ewan.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you've made it this far, the 25 of you that kept on, thank you. You have experienced a full and robust committee meeting. This is what it's all about. This is where we come together and we try to find ways that we can better the housing situation in our community, and we cannot do it alone. So thank you for joining us, sticking on this long. Please continue to come to our meetings and join us. We will have more coming up. There's going to be some public meetings. I'm sure that we will have more to do for everyone in the future. So that said, I think now is the time. What's that?
Motion to adjourn, and I love your ginger fur baby.
Thank you. Anybody want a second?
Second.
There you
David
go.
seconded.
All right, so
Good night, all. Thank you.
this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Everyone. Good job, Signe.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.